best place to hide the truth is in the pages of a book.
Maybe we should just read. Maybe we should just read.
Welcome to Hayes Reviews. Hello everybody, this is Nick, creator of Hayes Reviews. We are back for another live stream tonight. We're going to be finishing off the book that we have been reading over the last few weeks, and I'm very excited to do so. It's great to be here. Last week we attempted to run this broadcast and bring our reading of Prince Charles, the Sustainable Prince, to a close, but we were unable to do so. Events happened, life occurred, and I was forced to abandon midstream. 30 minutes into it we got, and I pulled the video down, and then I got some very kind, concerned messages. Hey Nick, is everything all right? What happened to the video? I went to look for the replay, it wasn't there. No cause for alarm, everything is absolutely fine. Thank you very much for all your kind messages of concern. We're back tonight. We're going to redo the same broadcast. So I've got the same preamble ramble prepared. So for people who tuned in last Friday, there'll be a bit of material that you have already heard, but we got to get it on the record because I deleted that other one. And so I'm going to have to cover some ground that I covered last Friday. So please bear with me. But there's a lot, of course, that I didn't get to last Friday. So plenty to hang on in there for. But if you do need to step out, go and get a drink, go walk the dog, do whatever you got to do, then I would do it in the first half an hour if you've already seen it, because I am going to be just covering the same stuff essentially. But I hope you're all doing well. If you're tuning in, watching live, wonderful to have you here on this spring evening, Friday in England. The plants are all coming out. The colors are all coming out now. The bird song is in the air. Life is happening all around us, and it's a great time. I really love the spring. It gives me a good feeling, and I love watching it all out my window while I'm at my laptop slaving away working. But wherever you are in the world, I hope you are doing well indeed. And do not forget, if you're tuning in on the replay, then there'll be a pinned comment below the video that you can use. It has timestamps in it, and you can skip ahead to a different section of the video if you so choose to do so. But we got some good stuff coming up tonight. We've been reading Prince Charles, the Sustainable Prince, this book here by Joan, Veon. It is a tiny little book from 1997, but it's very expensive and it's very hard to find. It's not impossible to find. It's tricky, but it's not impossible. You can grab a copy if you got a few quid to spare. It's not the cheapest book, I'll tell you right now, but it is out of print, and it does seem to be sort of getting kind of memory hold, although you can grab it, and I would advise people to grab it while you still can. But it's quite an interesting read. We've been learning about the history of the lineage of Prince Charles, what he's part of course. The name Windsor was introduced in recent times, but his bloodlines go back far, far, far beyond the invention of the name Windsor, which I believe they adopted just to sound a little bit more English so people would accept them, right? It's crazy that we've all been hoodwinked into accepting that one small group of people deserve an unprecedented and inordinate amount of wealth, luxury, comfort, and material riches, when the rest of us have to work and pay taxes and scramble about and compete with each other and really just put in some serious graft. And of course, to make that situation palatable to the average Joe and Jane in the street. We hear all these stories about how benevolent and kind and wonderful and hardworking and generous these royal families are. They're always getting involved in charities. They're always setting up trusts. In the case of King formerly known as Prince Charles, he pioneered the adoption of organic farming practices. Not for everybody, of course, just for the people who can afford to shop at Waitrose, which is the most expensive supermarket chain in the country. Everyone else, you still get your GMO food and your mass-produced, soon-to-be filled with cockroach paste fake food, seed oils, etc. You get all that. But if you can afford to get yourself down to Waitrose, then you can afford to buy the higher ticket items in the Waitrose supermarket, then you might be able to get some Waitrose Duchy organic products, which is Prince Charles' line of organic food. So that's what he's all about. He's all about health and wellness, and importantly, crucially, critically, he's all about looking after the planet. Prince Charles cares so much about the planet and everything on it, except the humans. You know, as far as he's concerned, it seems that the humans can go to hell, but all the animals and the plants, they need protecting, and so that seems to be what he's about, and that is what Joan Veon is telling us. Obviously, this book is subtitled The Sustainable Prince, and it is all about his involvement with the sustainability movement. Of course, we know on this channel that the UN has an agenda, and it's called Agenda 21/Agenda 2030. And part of this is sustainable development, which is just a code word for austerity. Yes, sustainable development is just a code word for you having less and less freedom and less time, less resources, less material comfort in your life, while Prince Charles has his entourage of 40 to 50 people who go with him wherever he goes. He has his personal supply of organic vegetables. He has his 10 eggs which are boiled for him in the morning, and so that he can pick the one which is the most perfectly boiled, not too hard, not too soft. You know, you want the white to be cooked, but you want the yolk to be a little bit dippy, because I'm sure he likes to dip his soldiers in there of a morning. I don't know if that last bit about the eggs is true, but I did hear it on a YouTube video, so chances are it's probably reliable and believable, right? It sounds believable. But good old sausage fingers. There's a lot to the story, and this is a slim and slender book, but it packs a punch because every word in it is carefully thought out, and Joan Veon backs her information up with sources and citations, which is what we always love on this channel. So, hello to everybody on the various channels tonight. We're streaming to Odyssey, Rumble, and a YouTube. We have got Celine Lyon over on Odyssey. We got Turbs over on Rumble. How's it going, you two? And then on YouTube, we got Frank. We've got Emma Royd, Elizabeth, Tammy, and we've also got Timmy. And we've also got Melissa of Alan Watt, cuttingthroughthematrix.com. Good evening to you all. It's so wonderful to have you here, and I say that from the bottom of my heart. So, let's get into this ridiculously long, because the thing is, I had to make a massive preamble ramble tonight because we've got literally 4.5 pages left in the book. And that's it. But there are some appendices which we're going to have a look at. And the last appendices is, or the last appendix, I should say, is a very interesting one. And I'm quite curious to see what people make of it, and then we'll have a scan through the notes, look at some of the references which Joan has used. So there's not a massive amount of the book left to get through. In total, we're probably looking at 69. We're on page 69, and it ends on page 109. So we got like 40 pages to get through, and I thought it was less than that. And now that I'm saying 40 pages, I'm starting to worry. I'll tell you all right now, this could be a long show tonight, so I hope you're all comfortable. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we are going to look at is this video here, which is from Daily Mail Royals. Did you know that there is a YouTube channel called Daily Mail Royals? It has 407,000 subscribers. Amazing. And I would bet that most of those subscribers are not living in the United Kingdom. I bet most of those people are from various other places who are impressed by wealth and prestige and royalty. The people who live here, for the most part, who I've talked to anyway, tend not to speak too much about the royal family and not to be too impressed by them. And there's good memes going around showing pictures of them and with descriptions underneath saying, look at this lot wearing stolen jewels and living off benefits paid for at the taxpayer's expense, which is a pretty good way of summarizing just what is going on with this strange, tiny elite family who are not elite but want us all to believe they are. It's a strange setup. But let's have a look at this video, which is all about the surprising link between Prince Charles and a certain Vlad the Impaler. And it's funny how they put a certain, like, I think there's only one Vlad the Impaler, isn't there? I don't know. Maybe there's a few, but part of the first reading we did, part 1 in the series, Joan Veon referenced a book which I have shown in part 2, and it's up there on top of my shelf. It's The Lineage and Ancestry of His Royal Highness Prince Charles, Prince of Wales by Gerald Paget. Massive book, literally the biggest book in my library, and it's a 2-volume set, so it's the 2 biggest books in my library, detailing all the way back to around the 500 AD, King Shoreditch of Wessex, and the lineage of this man all the way up to the present day. And it's pretty astounding, the historical figures who are in his background, in his ancestry, and it really reinforces this situation we find ourselves in, whereby there's a tiny parasitic class of people who really, really value themselves and their own lineage, and they have no problem generation after generation after generation enslaving the rest of us and using crazy techniques, mind control techniques, using violence, using economic warfare, propaganda, chemical pollutants, biological eugenics types of practices, as well as, not to mention, the psychological, the warfare on the mind, the behavioral conditioning, full spectrum dominance of most people on the planet by this crazy psychopathic parasitic I don't want to say elite because I can't say that word about them. That's not what they are. They're just psychopathic parasites. But Prince Charles, now he's the king, and he was related to Vlad the Impaler. This is mainstream news. This is admitted, and let's learn a little bit from this very nice lady about that. If I unmute it, that would help. Try that again.
There's one country in Europe that's devoted to our very own Prince Charles, and it's a case of mutual appreciation. Every year for over 2 decades, he sets off east to one of his favourite bolt holes. This is the story of Charles, Prince of Romania, or perhaps more aptly, Charles, Prince of Transylvania.
Prince of Romania, Prince of Transylvania, jet setting off to his bolt hole every year to go and check in with the vampires, presumably. But anyway, here's a picture of him in his younger days prior to his promotion. He got promoted. He was waiting a long time for that promotion. He was staking it out, but the old boss, she was going nowhere. She was really comfortable, but eventually she croaked and he got that promotion that he'd been long awaiting, and now he's the king. But back here, he was the prince, and here he is visiting Romania, being presented with bread, it looks like, and the entourage here to meet him, looking very happy to see him. This girl, as I commented on last time I went through this clip, she, to me, looks like she's staring off into the distance, like totally through him. I don't know what it is. She looks like she might have smoked something as well right before this meeting. And this woman over here on the right, who you're going to see a little clearer in a moment, she looks a little bit like unimpressed. But that's just my reading of their faces. Let's carry on.
His first trip was in 1998, and he now owns 10 properties in Transylvania and has established the Fundacja Prințel de Wales.
All right, let me just go back a little bit. He owns 10 properties in this place, And I made a comment last time about this line of people with their spiky weapons pointing up into the air, and just how, is this, it's pretty, I guess it's a typical military way to stand, but they got the bayonets on there, and just how this connects with Vlad the Impaler and what we know that he used to do when it comes to impaling. I don't know, it doesn't seem accidental, but very impressive. He's got lots of properties. He's an investor.
Batsir Prinsled of Wales, a foundation trust that helps preserve rural communities and traditional skills.
So yes, of course, he set up a foundation because rural communities wouldn't be able to preserve their way of life unless some prince from another country set up a foundation to help them do so. It's crazy. It's really crazy to me. I like this guy. He's coming in with the karate chop. He obviously doesn't trust this fella who's leaning. He's leaning in a bit too much, isn't he? He's way too eager, and he's just elbowed this granny out of the way so that he can feel Prince Charles's sweaty sausage fingers. And this fella's like, no, he's getting ready to do the 5-finger death punch on this fella here.
Given the prince's love of horticulture, architecture, and agro-tourism, it's not surprising that Transylvania, home to Europe's last wild bears and wolves, caught his imagination.
And I just got a comment as well. This has nothing to do with KC3, but this video is funny because every time that woman comes back on, she's in a different place. And I don't know if I would have noticed that if it wasn't for reading 4 Arguments for the Elimination of Television by Jerry Mander, who talks about how many of these events need to be placed into video in order to keep our attention. So things are changing constantly, and a new angle, and then a close-up, and then a zoom out, and then a different angle, and it just occurred to me that this happens with her. So she was just sitting on the step. I mean, she started off standing in front of this column, like a little seating. It looks like a little smoking area to me, actually. And she was sitting on a step, and then she's going to be walking up a staircase in a minute. But look at the scenery. I will say that this scenery is stunning. That looks like my kind of place, Not too many houses, lots of green rolling hills and trees. Fantastic.
When he visits in the spring, the hay meadows are a colourful hive of activity, and the landscapes dotted with peasant villages.
Look at that. Wow, what a place.
And medieval fortifications. But the connection between Britain's future king and this nation on the eastern edge of the EU...
She's outside in the garden now.
...runs far deeper than the restorative powers of Romania's landscape. When over there, Prince Charles regularly talks up his direct bloodline with the country's most famous anti-hero.
I like how she uses the word anti-hero. Okay, Vlad the Impaler was a tyrant. He was a murderous, evil SOB, as you might say over in the States. He tortured people in the most horrific ways imaginable. I don't know what his motivations were. I don't know who he was torturing. Maybe the people he was torturing were much worse than him. But even so, it just seems a little bit, he was an anti-hero. He was a hero. He was just an anti-hero. It's kind of like calling, I don't know, this concept of anti-hero is something I got to think a little bit more about before I start running my mouth. But, if you're famous for impaling people on spikes and letting them slide down slowly and die, you're not a hero, in my book anyway.
That's right. Vlad the Impaler, renowned for the bloodthirsty treatment of his enemies.
Could you hear the smile on her face as she said that? Like you can listen to a voice and you can tell if people are smiling just from their voice, right? Just listen to that again.
The bloodthirsty treatment of his enemies.
She's smiling. The bloodthirsty treatment of his enemies. Yes. Whoa, that little anti-hero, that little scamp. Ooh, what a fella.
And thought to be the inspiration behind Bram Stoker's Dracula, is apparently the Prince of Wales's 16 times removed grandfather. But the most spectacular...
she didn't change location this time. She's still outside by the trellis.
...of all his Romanian connections was Romania's Queen, Marie, a 20th century tour de force. It's striking that she was famous for refusing to wear rubber gloves when visiting the typhus-infected soldiers.
This is the part of the video that was actually the most interesting to me, and I'm going to have a look a little bit more about Marie on the next tab. But I like this comment that it was striking that she refused to wear gloves. She treated those who were sick and needy as humans. And you can imagine her being the kind of person who might have refused to mask up, you know, in the Emperor's New Pandemic, which is a phrase that I heard from a friend in the device community, and I got to use it because it's such a good phrase. So you can imagine her, you know, retrospectively, they're kind of saying, "Oh, what a great person! She wouldn't wear gloves. She wouldn't deny the sick and needy that human touch, right?" So just an interesting parallel there.
Just as Princess Diana made headlines when she publicly touched AIDS victims.
And then a parallel drawn with Princess Diana. But this video I think it's quite an old video. Let's say 4 years ago. Oh, 4 years ago. It's not that old, is it? But that means it was uploaded 4 years ago. It could have been made much longer before that. But yeah, they certainly were not celebrating, lauding, appreciating the people who were still shaking hands and refusing to wear masks during the Big C event of 2020, were they? So funny how times change, how narratives shift, and keeping an eye out for these sorts of contradictions and inconsistencies is kind of important. But continuing.
Over the years as our future king, Charles has had to meet some pretty unsavoury people.
He is an unsavory person himself, right? So I'm sure he felt right at home.
Including Romania's former dictator, Nicolae Ceausescu, when he came on a state visit to Buckingham Palace in 1978. But within 10 years of that
Here she is on the staircase.
rendezvous, Charles had turned his ire on Ceausescu, a prince known for his spidery missives. In 1989, he openly condemned the tyrant's systematic destruction of Romania's historic villages. Opposition, not without danger. Charles would write, "I hope you receive this before some frightful undercover agent stabs me in the left buttock with a poisoned umbrella." The owner of several authentic Transylvanian properties, in the exquisite Saxon stronghold of Viscri, Romanian tourists on the trail of Charles are now so numerous, locals have started to complain.
So this part of it was just funny that he's buying all these properties and he's setting up his foundation in order to preserve the culture and the traditions of Romania and its people. And now that he's known for this, there's a whole entourage of tourists following in his footsteps, going to look at his property and everything, and they're pissing off the locals. Well done, Charles.
But in general, the country loves him.
But ignore those people. Ignore those peasants. Ignore those genuine salt of the earth Romanians who don't like him. Everyone else thinks he's great.
In 2017, the president awarded him one of Romania's highest honours, Steaua Romaniei.
Well, he's looking in that box like, what do I do with this exactly? Does it go on my head? Is it what is this? He doesn't look like he's so honored to be receiving the highest award that is possible. He's not impressed.
The star of Romania. Back in Highgrove, Charles has apparently sown a Transylvanian hay meadow. And during lockdown on video link, he addressed Britain's large Romanian diaspora who were...
And that was the screen grab that I got for the intro screen today. Let's just see if we can capture that facial expression. Oh, I just missed it. But when he's like that, when he just opens his eyes looking up there. Yeah, I don't know. Something about that face creeps me out, gives me the willies. So let's move on. That is Prince Charles. King formerly known as Prince Charles is related to Vlad the Impaler. He loves Romania. He loves Romania so much that he's buying up all their properties, putting them under UNESCO control, and everyone who's going to visit them is pissing off the people who live there. But here is Marie of Romania. This is an interesting exploration, an insight into the reality of, royalty, royal families. What are they? Who are they? What are they all about? So Marie of Romania, I hadn't heard of her before, but she was born Princess Marie Alexandra Victoria of Edinburgh. Huh. Now, I didn't know Romania had a city called Edinburgh. Oh, wait, it doesn't. Marie was born into a British royal family. Okay, so the Queen of Romania is British. Her parents were Prince Alfred, Duke of Edinburgh, and Grand Duchess Maria Alexandrovna, which is a fantastic name, isn't it? And she refused to marry King George V. And actually, it says she refused the proposal. Further down in this article, it says that her mum told her she was not allowed to marry him. Reason being that her mother was Russian Orthodox Christian, and in Orthodoxy, first cousins are not allowed to marry in Orthodox Christianity. So she turned down, or was told to turn down, King George, who wanted to marry her, and instead she was chosen as by whom? Well, that says a lot about royalty and how royal families work, isn't it? She was chosen as the future wife of Ferdinand, who was the Crown Prince of Romania in 1892. This bit stood out to me as well. Marie urged Ferdinand to ally himself with the Triple Entente and declare war on Germany, which he eventually did in 1916. So Triple Entente, that was a really key part of the World War I, the true origins of World War I. We've been sold a bit of a false narrative around that, and you want to read books like Hidden History, or go to James Corbett's website, corbettreport.com, and check out World War I Conspiracy, the documentary, which draws heavily on the research done by the authors of Hidden History. And in that, it is explained how the Triple Entente was set up by a bunch of diplomats who were basically scheming to get this war on Germany and make it happen, right? So interesting that she had a role to play in that, and was used. I didn't mean to say she was used to get Ferdinand to ally himself with it, but perhaps she was. A little bit more about her. After the war, the historical region of Transylvania following Bessarabia and Bukovina united with the Old Kingdom, and Marie became Queen of Greater Romania, and she attended the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, which was also interesting, a very critical piece of history. I didn't know she was there. And she campaigned for international recognition of the enlarged Romania. She was very popular in Romania and abroad, and in 1926 she undertook a diplomatic tour of the United States with her children Nicholas and Ileana. Good names, definitely good names. It says as well that after Romania transitioned to a People's Republic, the monarchy was excoriated by communist officials. Several biographies of the royal family described Marie either as a drunkard or a promiscuous woman, referring to her many alleged affairs and to orgies she had supposedly organized before and during the war. In the years preceding the Romanian Revolution, her popularity recovered, and she was offered as a model of patriotism to the population. So just those few little sentences there give you a sort of insight into the power of propaganda, how narratives are written, rewritten, how stories are changed, how characters are assassinated, how villains can be made to seem like heroes or anti-heroes, and vice versa. Presumably heroes can be made into villains, and I think we are suffering from a great deal of this kind of fog of war covering our history. And Wikipedia is not the most reliable source, but it's a good place to come to get a view and an insight into different things, right? So there's more here, but in the interest of time, we will press on. So, returning to the book, James Gustav Speth. He showed up in the book. He was mentioned on a page somewhere here. His speech, in fact, was mentioned. And I have not been able to find the footage of the speech. Joan claims to have attended a conference in Rio, which was the Rio +5 conference. I'm going to go over to the bookcam here and reread this speech because it is relevant. So this is page 49, and she's talking about James Gustav Speth, who's the executive director of the UNDP. In 1982, he was chosen to head the World Resources Institute, which was created by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. And she says that she attended the Rio +5 conference. So the Rio conference, the first Rio conference is where Agenda 21 was agreed upon, was hashed out, was where the documents were signed. And then 5 years later, they reconvened to see how much progress they were making. And apparently he gave the keynote speech at this Rio +5 conference in 1997. And it's quoted here, so we'll just read through that. Quote, "Let me emphatically state that global governance is not global government, but a set of interacting guidance and control mechanisms that include both state, public, and non-state private actors. Actors both public and private, both national and multilateral. So public-private partnerships. Global governance is here to stay, and driven by economic and environmental globalization. Global governance has coexisted for many years with strong sovereign states. Yeah, right. International arrangements such as the Rhine and Danube Commissions existed since the early years of the 19th century to oversee transport on major rivers. They were joined in the second part of the 19th century by such agencies as the International Telecommunications Union, the World Meteorological Organization, the Universal Postal Union, a precursor to the International Organization for Standardization. I haven't looked that up yet. I meant to. International Organization for Standardization. So when you wonder why all the cultures are the same everywhere, all the restaurants, the fast food, the clothes, the styles, the things that people are watching, it's all being standardized. Maybe we ought to investigate this IOS, the international organization which is pushing this kind of thing. Also, continuing, the World Intellectual Property Organization, the International Rail Transport Organization. In the early years of the 20th century, the World Health Organization and the International Labour Organization were created. Each of these institutional innovations and the resulting international regulation reflect the reality that economic and other needs spur global governance. Today, the system of global governance is undergoing a profound transformation at the qualitative level. Non-state actors, mainly NGOs and businesses, have seen their influence increase in global governance. Nor are NGOs the only non-state actors to participate in the evolution of global governance mechanisms. The phenomenal growth of multinational enterprise is a potent force in the global governance. The presence here of Klaus Schwab, founder and president of the World Economic Forum, and Stephen Schmidheiny and his colleagues with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development is ample evidence of this. So, Klaus was also there. I was kind of disappointed that I couldn't track down a recording or a video of that exact speech. It might not have been recorded, although I suspect it has probably been memory hold. But that mention of Klaus Schwab in a book written in 1997 shows great foresight and great awareness and knowledge of what was happening. Because, of course, the World Economic Forum is old. It's been going quite a while. I think they met for I forget when they met for the first time. But I can check because I have this book here. So let's have a look at this. We'll go back to the book camp. World Economic Forum, the first 40 years. So if we just have a quick... So 1971. There you are. First 40 years, 1971. So World Economic Forum goes back a ways. It's been involved in the Davos crowd, and Klaus Schwab's been there since the beginning. And there is the encoded 666 in their logo, which is worth being aware of as well. But most of us, I shouldn't say most of us, I had never heard of them until a Big C event, and they were talked about quite a lot in the alternative media with a Great Reset, with the Klaus Schwab was pumping these books out with his quotes of his, where he talks about young global leaders. and the meetings that he's held and the conferences and the associations he has with various political figures from all over the world, as well as technocratic stooges such as Yuval Noah Harari, that like slimy, greasy little cretin who keeps pumping books out, rewriting history while we're on the topic of that. So, James Gustav Speth, as quoted in Joan Veon's book, what's he all about? Who is he? Well, he was born in 1942 and he's an American. He's still at it. He's still going. He's an American environmental lawyer and advocate who co-founded the National Resources Defense Council, which sounds pretty good, right? Sorry, natural resources, not national. And they even got a little polar bear, an 8-pointed star in a shield. And we all know those polar bears, how skinny and thin they are and how badly they're being affected by our eating steak and driving trucks. His early life and education: graduated summa cum laude from Yale University in 1964. If anyone knows what that means, can you tell me, please, in the chat? Because I hear it. Does it mean like with honors or with full marks or with a gold star or what? I don't know. So please help me out if you know what that means. I noticed, though, that he attended Balliol College at the University of Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar. Curiouser and curiouser, right? And I thought, Balliol College, I've definitely done a bit of research on that before. So I pulled up the relevant wiki page for that. It's the oldest college in Oxford and the English-speaking world. They are known for notable alumni, including 13 Nobel Prize winners and 4 British prime ministers, which is pretty crazy, right, for one little college in Oxford. If we scroll down here, though, and if we go to people associated with Balliol, notable people, yes, we have Asquith, Prime Minister Asquith. We got Prime Minister Edward Heath. We got Aldous Huxley as well. We got Boris Johnson, Bojo. And we got Harold Macmillan. Also, if we go a bit further down, there's Nobel Prize winners, there's scientists, there's, in politics, there's other senior leadership positions, and we've got Alfred Milner. So if you remember, the book we did before this was the Milner-Fabian conspiracy. Milner being a key player in the sort of origin story of this whole event, this whole agenda that we're living through, right? So that's just another link there to connect this current fella, James Speth, with Milner and the Milner-Fabian conspiracy, which, if you haven't checked out that reading, was an excellent book. Absolutely jam-packed with information. And when you get to the end of it, you will either laugh or cry or convert to Islam, as a good friend of mine said. You know, one of those three. So, James Gustav Speth, he is he's cut from the same sort of cloth as many people we've heard of and studied before. In 1982, he founded the World Resources Institute, which is a think tank based in Washington, D.C., and he was a senior advisor to Bill Clinton's transition team. And I don't think that's transition in the sense of, going from an egg bearer to a sperm donor. Not that kind of transition, which can't be done anyway. But I think he's talking about some political transition or other, maybe into the White House or out of it. But he was heading a group that examined the U.S.'s role in natural resources, energy, and the environment. We all know what the outcome of that examination was, wouldn't it? We need some more austerity. Not austerity, sustainable development. That's what we need. But he's chaired a U.S. task force which produced a report called Partnership for Sustainable Austerity, a new U.S. agenda. I'm just going to start calling it sustainable austerity from now on. Quite like that. It's got a certain ring to it. In 1990, he led the Western Hemisphere's dialogue on environment and development, which produced a report, Compact for a New World Order. New World Order. They left it's all there, isn't it? From 1993 to 1999, he served as administrator of the United Nations Development Program. He managed the United Nations Development Assistance Plan and also served as chair of the United Nations Sustainable Development Group. So that is what he is into. That's what he's all about. And he's an author, and he's been writing books. 2006, he wrote Global Environmental Governance. And he also did, in 2008, The Bridge at the End of the World, Capitalism, the Environment, and Crossing the Crisis to Sustainability. And then 2021, fairly recently, he did They Knew. Not They Live, but They Knew. The US federal government's 50-year role in causing the climate crisis. Yes, there is a kind of narrative out there at the minute where governments are being criticized by mainstream talking heads. I'm just thinking of a video that was posted to the ARC, which is Jordan Peterson's ARC, something for Association for Responsible Citizenship or Citizenry, something like that. And this ARC channel published a video like why the elite have led us to this place. So there's this kind of like false awakening being led by Pied Pipers and shepherds, such as, what's he called? Russell Brand. Think about the word brand, what it means, think about his past, his history, where he started. I've said this before on the channel, but Russell Brand literally began his career making a TV show called Rebrand. And in that TV show, he did a bunch of different things in every episode. One of them, he took in a homeless man off the street, and he put him in the bath, and he washed him, and he gave him a sponge bath, and he brushed his teeth, and he cut his hair, and he tried to help him out and look after him. And in the end, the homeless guy got freaked out and left and went back to living on the street because living with Russell Brand was so creepy and weird, and he couldn't take it. He would rather be out living on the street. And there was another episode where Russell Brand gave masturbatory pleasure to a man in the toilets of a pub for money. And that wasn't done on camera, but the before lead up to it, and then the after was put on camera, right? That's where Russell Brand started. That's where his career began, and it's been downhill since then. Even though he's had more exposure, more eyeballs put on him, he's been touted and pushed around and amplified to no end. He's not to be trusted. He's a shepherd. He's a Pied Piper, for sure, in my opinion. I don't know for sure, but I think it's pretty obvious. So that's kind of what's happening now. There's this open, like it's okay to criticize government in certain ways as long as you say, oh, it's their fault that we're in this climate crisis, this existential climate. We need AI. And they're going to push in some sort of modeling, data-driven, technocratic system that makes the decisions, because look at where the leaders have brought us, right? And so you can see this kind of narrative, this manufactured crisis, but then here's going to be the planned solution to it, the problem reaction solution, which they do time and time again, over and over again. So this guy's books kind of feel to me like they're probably leaning in that sort of direction, fueling that kind of narrative to bring people along for that ride. But I haven't read any of them, so I'm not speaking from experience. But Spath runs or heads up or founded Speth founded the World Resources Institute, which institutes, Royal Institute for International Affairs, Council on Foreign Relations, its American wing, its American branch. When they're setting up institutes, you gotta pay attention, but most people don't, because it sounds boring, doesn't it? It's an institute. Yeah, they're probably doing good things. They're probably there's nothing to see here. But anyway, let's learn a little bit about this one. So the WRI, Global Research Nonprofit Organization, and it was established with funding from the MacArthur Foundation, which is another foundation like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, like the Rockefeller Foundation. I don't know so much about the MacArthur Foundation, to be honest. So that's something I got to look into as well on another video. And it was founded under the leadership of Speth, who we were just talking about. It studies sustainable practices for business, economics, finance, and governance. So global governance, which is here, which Speth announced in the Rio +5 conference. It's here to stay. And of course, but they care about things that are very important, like food, like forests, like water, like energy, cities, and climate. All this good stuff, right? All this important stuff. You like forests, don't you? And food, don't you? Yeah, well, we really care about that stuff too. So let us get it all under our control. The flagship report series is the World Resources Report, which each of which deals with a different topic. The organization, it has a mission, and the mission is to move society to provide for the needs and aspirations of current and future generations. So they want to move society. In what direction exactly, they don't tell us how exactly they're going to achieve this moving. They're not leading society. They are not improving society. They are not fixing a broken society. They're just moving it. Us. Where and how, they don't reveal. But it is, of course, promoting a sustainable human society. I'm getting so tired of seeing this word, but we're going to see a lot more of it throughout tonight's broadcast. So let's just accept that. They have a basis of human health and well-being, environmental sustainability, of course, and economic opportunity. It partners with local and national governments, private companies, publicly held corporations, and other nonprofits. So more public-private partnerships, more NGOs, more unaccountable, unelected influences over the way our lives are going. None of these people are elected, and yet they're advising governments. And it's crazy when you think about it. The World Resources Institute has international offices in Brazil, China, Colombia, Ethiopia, India, Indonesia, Kenya, Mexico, Netherlands, Turkey, UK, US, and it's active in 50 countries, which is very far-reaching indeed. This was quite curious too. During 2014 to 2018, World Resources Institute received more funding from outside the US than any other think tank. So it's just an interesting, it's the most funded think tank, or at least by money coming from outside the US, right? It got a total of more than $63 million. So who's donating it? What are they getting in return for their investment? Because a donation is an investment, right? Even if you give money to charity, you are making an investment in that charity so that you can feel better about yourself and feel like you're doing some good in the world and that you're sharing the money and the wealth that you are blessed to have. And I'm not trying to criticize or make light of charity. It's very important. But there is an element of doing it to make yourself feel good, right? There is a selfish element to it, in other words. So you're investing that money in that charity so that you can feel good and sleep at night and feel like you're doing your bit to make the world a better place. Yeah, that money's being invested. So who is investing $63 million into the World Resources Institute, and what is the return that they're expecting on that money? These are the kind of questions we should be asking and things we should be finding out. If I was a proper investigative something or other, then maybe I would find out and dive in and dig up those answers. But I'm not. I'm just a nerd with a bunch of books that I want to read to people. So you're stuck with me on Wikipedia for now. In 2014, Stephen Ross, who is an American real estate developer, he gave the organization $30 million to establish the WRI Ross Center for Sustainable Cities. So that's a good example, isn't it? An American real estate developer gives $30 million to this institute. What is the return that he's getting for that investment? Oh, well, he's a real estate developer, and this organization are pushing sustainable cities, sustainable austerity. And so maybe because he's given all this money, that when it comes to rebuilding these cities and these 15-minute neighborhoods and these little areas that are controlled and locked down and surveilled, I wonder who's going to get the contracts for building and developing those sustainable cities. Who could it be? I wonder. So there's a little section here on criticism, but nothing I highlight in there. So we can be moving on. I think we got to get our skates on. I got loads left to get through. All right. That's Balliol College. We already talked about that. Here is the man himself. Speth. Not Spath. It's Speth. So let's listen to what he's got to say. Make sure I got this unmuted. And this is his warming warning from 1981.
It's possible that we could have very, very serious changes.
Oh no. serious changes. Notice he just said it's possible. He didn't say how likely. It could be a 1% possibility. They always do this. It's always modal verbs. May, might, could. It's always like an implied threat, an implied catastrophe. It's possible. It might. This could happen.
In global climate, in precipitation patterns.
Look how serious he is. Look how concerned he is. Look at those furrows of worry. And that's a Bill Hicks reference for anyone who knows Bill Hicks.
Patterns in wind patterns and effects on agriculture, effects on societies. It's hard for me to imagine.
Oh, he can't even imagine how bad it's going to get.
A more serious environmental issue.
He can't even imagine a more serious environmental issue than this. Now, is that a comment on his lack of imagination?
We ought to face the fact that we can't use all that coal. When we make decisions about developing synthetic fuels, when we make projections about long-term energy needs, and which technologies to use, the CO2 issue is simply not seriously considered, and it's high time that it should be.
So they were pushing the CO2 issue back in the 80s, which we now know as net zero.
Do we have a right to around with global systems in that way? I mean, is the world ours to play with, to experiment with? I think not. I mean, I think we owe generations, other life on the planet, a profound duty of restraint.
A profound duty of restraint, and we owe it. We owe that. We are in debt to other life on the planet, to the creatures and the plants and the plant life. As I said, this is King formerly known as Prince's, the whole thing. Cares deeply about the environment and all the living things on the planet except me and you.
And right now, we don't seem to be exercising it. I don't simply mean that it's the worst environmental problem that we've ever had. It is certainly one of the most serious environmental problems that we could ever have, I think.
We could. See, you did it there again. Let's just go back for that.
That we could ever have.
Could ever have. It could be a thing. Like, not that it is, not that it's... See, this is what you got to watch out for. What's implied, these sort of suggestions, they plant images and ideas in your mind, and it goes in. If you're not thinking, if you're not analyzing, and if you're not paying attention.
I think. But it's also a dilemma in the sense of how to respond. The scope of the response, the number of people that have to be involved in a response if it's going to be effective, the pressures pushing against a response.
Everybody. This is the thing that's going to unite everybody. That's what Joan says in the book, is that environmentalism is the issue that is going to unite everybody because nobody can argue against it. It affects everybody. We are all in this fight, this war, this movement, this revolution. And remember that word for something that I'm going to show you a little bit later.
In that sense, it poses us with both a dilemma in terms of the seriousness of the problem and the possibilities of solution. I think it's going to be terribly difficult.
There you are. So that is a little bit from Speth. What's next? Oh, here he is. There's a little bit more about him. We don't have to play all of this one actually, but this is a video where he's talking about how nature has rights. I'll play a little bit. It's a more recent one. Still 11 years ago. But you'll see he's a bit older in this one. (2009).
A lot of our greatest thinkers on these...
And I'm not saying it means anything, but there is a brick wall in the background. There's a lot of brick walls in a lot of backgrounds on a lot of videos. Just saying.
Issues. Whether we're talking about Aldo Leopold or Rachel Carson or Thomas Berry, Eric Fromm, a lot of the people, if you look at what they really say, is that the real problem is up here.
Yes. It's in your mind.
That we need that until we have a different set of values, until people have made some deep adjustments in their values, their habits of thought, their culture, that we're not going to solve these problems.
Therefore, we need to change the culture, change the habits, change the way people think. How are we going to do that?
There are a lot of people who very thoughtful people who believe that, and I don't think they're wrong either. In the end, it does get back to
Mind control,
a change in values, to a change in habits of thought.
propaganda.
Right now, the dominant values in our society tend to be
Okay, what's going to be the problem? I think he's about to say materialism.
materialistic. The dominant values tend to be very anthropocentric. Thomas Berry said we created the concept of rights and then gave them all to ourselves. But nature has rights. Nature should have rights, and
So we invented the concept of rights and we gave them to ourselves. But nature should have them too. What, nature should have the thing that we invented, the concept we invented? What are you talking about?
And we need to understand our total dependence on the natural world, and the rights that other species have to their continued existence. I mean, they evolved here with us, and we have no right to exterminate such vast swaths of the planet's ecosystems and species as we're doing today. Nature.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a murky one. What is a right? Where does it come from? How do you delineate what is and is not a right? I don't think this guy's thought very deeply about it. He's just sort of giving us the typical line, isn't he? That all living things have equal right to life, and human beings are not respecting that, which makes sense, which does resonate, and a lot of people empathize with that point of view because they have pets and they have animals and they see beautiful souls in other non-human entities. So there's something there, absolutely.
It has rights, and we should recognize them. So we're very anthropocentric. We're very materialistic, and this is a big word, but we're very contempocentric.
That was actually a pretty good word. I was impressed with that. Contempocentric. I hadn't heard that one before.
It's now. Everything is near term. The politicians are near term. The business leaders are near term. It's the next quarterly statement. It's the next congressional election. It's just we're very much living in the near term, in the present, and we're not thinking much about the future. And our economic models don't know how to deal with the long term. We have these arguments about the discount.
So I guess he's talking about the Keynesian economics, because that's the only thing that any of us get now. John Maynard Keynes, Keynesian economics. He was very close to the Fabian socialists. His whole version of economics is, from what I've been told, nonsense. Largely, it's overcomplicated, and it is just based on governments spending money they do not have, i.e. getting populations into more and more debt all the time. And I've just seen Anna M. on YouTube saying, I hate it when he says we. I am right there with you. It does my head in. I do not at all feel represented by this guy and the nonsense that he's spewing.
Discount rate that we use in economic analysis and things like this. And so we really don't have a society.
I hope he's going to stop using that big wood burner type thing that he has in the background there, because we all know that they're terrible for the environment, aren't they?
Society which is thinking about, the long term, our children's lives when we're gone, their grandchildren.
Yeah, you got to think about the children. If you don't think about the children, what kind of heartless monster are you? What kind of heartless anti-hero are you?
But we have to get there.
Although I suppose Vlad the Impaler was doing his bit, wasn't he, for environmentalism, getting rid of all those carbon dioxide producing humans, sticking them on spikes, and just doing his bit to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that was being produced by the people around him and in his country.
We have to get beyond this contempo-centrism that we have.
Yes, we have to stop living in the moment, stop caring about today, and start thinking about future times when we will all be dead because of the sustainable austerity that we've been forced to live under. So moving on, what is the Earth Summit? We've been hearing about this from Joan Veon in the book, and it's been a very critical part of her case. Is the royal, not just King formerly known as Prince's involvement, but other royalty, members of the royal family, their involvement as well in these sorts of summits and meetings. So I thought it would be worth looking at this as well for context. The Earth Summit is the unsaid. This is what is unsaid. The United Nations Conference on Environmental and Development. Unsaid. Strange acronym, definitely not an accident. But this was a major United Nations conference held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992. In 1972, the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment or the Stockholm Conference was the first global conference to address environmental issues. So it goes back to 1972. The Earth Summit was created as a means for member states to cooperate together internationally on development issues after the Cold War, and due to issues relating to sustainability being too big for individual member states to handle, Earth Summit was held as a platform for other member states to collaborate. I don't know why it's too big for individual member states to handle it, right? But I think the reason that narrative was pushed is because the goal is not to fix the environment. The goal is not sustainability. The goal is more control, more centralized international control of systems, and ultimately a sort of one world global governance system to be put in place. As James Speth told us, it's here and it's here to stay. And that was in 1997 when he said that. So going back to the Earth Summit, a key achievement in the 1992 conference was the establishment of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or the UNFCCC, established in part as an international environmental treaty to combat dangerous human interference with the climate system. See, the more I'm reading, the more I am seeing how heroic Vlad really was, getting rid of those dangerous humans who were messing up the world's systems, environmental systems, and making it intolerable for all the other creatures. Vlad was actually he was just ahead of his time, you know. He just saw these problems coming, and he was just doing his bit. But this UNFCCC was signed by 154 states. Right, that's nearly all of them. That's well over 2/3. By 2022, the UNFCCC had 198 parties. So that's all of them pretty much at that point. So this is a global thing. This is happening everywhere. I don't know if you voted on it in your country where you're from. I certainly didn't get to vote on this. Since the creation of the UNFCCC, it's lost a C now. I think that might be a typo. There's 3 C's up there. No, it's, anyway. Many related environmental conferences, climate-related forums, and ongoing scientific research initiatives in the fields of sustainability, climate, and environmental security have continued to develop these intersecting issues. Non-governmental organizations and educational institutions have been prominent. So that's your NGOs, of course, over again. And the Earth Summit played an influential role in diffusing several key principles, such as the precautionary principle, the common but differentiated responsibilities, and the polluter pays principle. The polluter pays because and who's the polluter? Well, it's the developed countries. And who's paying? Is it the royal family with multiple properties all over the world? No. Is it the military-industrial complex? Is it the international, supranational corporations? No. It's me and you. It's the taxpayers. It's the people who are trying to work a job, get a bit of money together, buy a house, have a family, maybe grow a few vegetables in the garden and go on holiday every now and again, right? You are the polluter. It is not the big international NGOs, the foundations, the corporations, the governments, the military. It's none of those guys. They get to keep going. But you and I, we got to pay because we are the polluters. That's the polluter pays principle. So that's a really good one that we're all enjoying and feeling very good about. The Earth Summit resulted in the following documents. So the Rio Declaration on Environment and Development, and very importantly and critically, Agenda 21, which I think most people would be aware of, will have heard about by now. And part of the output of that meeting was this massive book here, which is Agenda 21, and the United Nations Program of Action from Rio. Huge book laying it all out, and this is super boring stuff, you know, and it's kind of like reading a big corporate manifesto about how a corporation is going to be run. It's proper dull. But that document came out of this meeting. There was also, it says, moreover, important legally binding agreements were opened for signature. So these things are legally binding. If they're legally binding, don't you think citizens of the different countries signing up to this should be asked first? Hey, do you want to be legally bound by these things? No, they don't. You don't get asked. They just sign it on your behalf and then say, well, you elected us and we're here to do this, to make you legally bound by an international agreement. And, you know, there's arguments that undermines national sovereignty. I think that's kind of Joan Veon's position with regards to the UN. Title of her other book being United Nations Global Straitjacket. I'll just grab it for you to have a look. I don't know why I left it so high up there. She only did 2 books before she unfortunately passed. Here's the other one. United Nations Global Straitjacket. So, I mean, the title alone tells you everything you need to know pretty much. This one's got a lot more in it. It's a much bigger book. If you look at the 2 side by side, way more in it. This one would be more along the lines of Milner Fabian conspiracy if we were to do it on the channel, which I'm not sure we will, but who knows. So that's a little bit about the Earth Summit, an important part of the puzzle, something we've all got to know about. So the United Nations had, so this is the conference. This is from the United Nations website. And it's a little bit about the conference that they had. So, you know, it's not secret, even though they called it the unsaid. It's not secret. It's all here. You can read about it. All their documentation is open. The thing is that most of us have been trained not to read this stuff because it is quite boring and it's not as fun and entertaining as, you know, watching TV shows or drinking beer or cheering for your favorite sports team. But it is there if you want to read it. So the next thing I've got is another clip of our favorite, the man of the hour, Prince Charles of Transylvania. And this is his speech. I won't play the whole thing, but we'll play a little bit of it. Just let's hear him speak, hear him in his own words, see what he's got to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 pandemic has shown us just how devastating a global cross-border threat can be.
I bet he was absolutely climbing the walls, being locked down in Buckingham Palace with all that space, all those rooms, all those acres of gardens to roam around in, all the different houses, all these different properties. I bet he was really struggling when he was locked down.
Climate change and biodiversity loss are no different.
No different indeed. This little side eye that he does when he says climate change, do you think that's, I don't know, I'm not an expert at body language, facial expressions or anything, but is that a little tell? It looks like he's sort of like, let's see if I can get away with this. I'll play it slowly, see if we can capture the moment.
Diversity loss are no...
Oh, hang on, I didn't go back far enough, and it's actually pretty painful to listen to him on half speed. I'll just see if I can catch it.
Cross-border threat can be. Climate change and
Oh, not too bad. Not too bad.
Diversity loss are no different. In fact, they pose an even greater existential threat, to the extent that we have to put ourselves on what might be called a warlike footing.
Oh, it might be. This might be a war, like the war on terror and the war on drugs. We need to have a war on pollution. A war on pollution wouldn't be so bad, but that's not what they're doing. They're having a war on carbon-based life forms.
I myself had the opportunity of consulting many of you over these past 18 months. I know you all carry a heavy burden on your shoulders.
So he's talking to the UN Climate Change Conference, UK 2021, and he says that all these people have heavy burdens on their shoulders, and we'll see who he's talking to in a moment when the camera flashes to the audience.
And you do not need me to tell you that the eyes and hopes of the world are upon you.
Or upon you, Joe Biden. What a masterful piece of editing there. And here he is. Mask, no mask. He's doing the earring. And his face looks a different shape here. This is one of the many Bidens that we've seen. During his presidency, there was quite a few of them. So, but it's just funny, that little cutaway. It's on you. Let's see that again.
And hopes of the world are upon you.
Hint, hint.
To act with all dispatch and decisively, because time has quite literally run out.
Literally, we are out of time.
The recent IPCC report gave us a clear diagnosis.
So it is 2 C's. He just said IPCC, right? Not 3 C's.
Of the scale of the problem. We know what we must do. With a growing global population creating ever-increasing demand on the planet's finite resources.
Maybe you should give up some of your 10 properties in Romania then for this growing population, eh?
We have to reduce emissions urgently and take action to tackle the carbon already in the atmosphere, including from coal-fired power stations. Putting a value on carbon, thus making carbon capture solutions more economical, is therefore absolutely critical.
Yeah, this is painful. I don't want to play any more of this because it's just watching him look down at his card, read the next few words, having absolutely no belief or conviction in what he's saying, just standing up there reading a speech that somebody else has written. It's really sickening, and I don't think any of us should have to endure any more of this. Maybe it would be better to play the video and just have me talk instead. I'm, of course, exempt from any of the measures that we are going to impose on the rest of the world. You see, the problem is that I don't have enough in my portfolio. My family only had one mansion each during lockdown to sit around in, and this is absolutely intolerable. I need to buy more properties in Romania. The people over there are really begging for my foundation to go and help them out by preserving their culture and ways of life, by buying up their properties and ruining their cultures and ways of life with tourism. All right, that's about as much as that as I can do. I'm not good at impressions. Shout out to Abstract Conflict over on Odyssey. We got ESP as well. Good to see you. And we also got Hasdak on Rumble. And PW on YouTube. Mindhack, what's up, Mindhack? Hope you're all doing well. So yeah, I'll move us on a little bit. So one of the things that Joan Veon talked about that caught my attention was this thing here, which I typed into the search bar, called the International Business Leaders Forum. When she started talking about it, she called it the Prince Charles International Business Leaders Forum. I'm going to try and find it. So if you just bear with me, she called it the Prince. Yeah, here we go. I'll just show you. I'll just get it up on the screen so you know why I'm searching for this term. So the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. I think that's the first mention of it. No, we got it here. We got it here. The birth of the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. Mentioned quite a few times. We got a bit of a history about it. And it's sort of like a World Economic Forum type deal. That's how she described it. So I thought I'm going to look into this and find what I can find, because I hadn't heard of it before. So I typed it into Wikipedia and nada. Guess what came up though? World Economic Forum came up as the first hit. So there is no International Business Leaders Forum in Wikipedia. We got our Young Global Leaders. We got our World Economic, WEF. We got Heather Hancock, no idea who she is. International Finance Forum, Graduate Business Forum, but no International Business Leaders Forum. So I thought that's strange. I'll have to take my investigations and inquiries elsewhere. And I found, so I'd put it into search engine and I found this: Witty Worldwide, the Prince of Wales's International Business Leaders Forum. So it is a thing, subtitled Championing Action for a Sustainable Future. There he is, a bit younger, doing some sort of speech, same microphone setup, probably reading from a set of cards that somebody else has written for him, just outside on the podium there. But this website, which turns out to be a sort of PR firm, this is a case study of theirs. And it says, in 1989, against the advice of the Foreign Office, the Prince of Wales invited an array of the world's most powerful business leaders to a meeting in the hurricane-devastated city of Charleston, South Carolina. So, you would go, if you are pushing this sort of narrative that weather is caused by humans and therefore we got to stop humans from living their lives, you would go to the scene where a hurricane had hit. Just so happened it was a place that shared the same name. Right, Charleston. Okay, that's convenient. He says the pivotal gathering encouraged CEOs to collaborate on sustainability. I bet it did indeed. CEOs. What are CEOs interested in? Well, CEOs run corporations. What do corporations do? They make money for the people at the top of the corporation, for the shareholders. That is the only legal obligation of a corporation, is to make money for its shareholders. CEOs are in charge of ensuring that that continues to happen. So why would they be invested in sustainability, right? Well, because they're going to continue making money for their shareholders, obviously. But this meeting gave birth to the International Business Leaders Forum. And this guy, Witty Worldwide, this PR firm, were tasked with re-energizing the organization and raising money for an endowment fund in memory of the co-founder, Robert Davies. Global sustainability, fancy pen. Is this a video? It is a video. I haven't watched this. Oh, I should have watched that ahead of time, but we're not going to watch it now because I have no idea what's in it. It might be boring. Scrolling down. Pause that. Prince Charles, this is a quote from the Daily Telegraph. Prince Charles has been miles ahead of the curve on many issues. He warned about plastic waste in 1970 and championed organic farming long before it became mainstream. Way ahead of the curve. This is the chairman of IBLF, a guy called Neville Isdell, right? And I wanted to look him up, and what I found was, go to the next tab, Neville Isdell, there's the man, former chair and CEO of the Coca-Cola Company, right? Currently president of the World Wildlife Fund, right? So he's gone. This guy's gone from CEO of the Coca-Cola Company to president of the World Wildlife Fund. You know what I mean? And he was the chairman and CEO. He was the chairman, of this IBLF, this International Business Leaders Forum. Now, Prince Charles, king formerly known as Prince Charles III, was warning about plastic waste, makes the CEO of the Coca-Cola Company the chairman of his... Like, do you know how many plastic bottles are out there because of the Coca-Cola Company polluting the oceans, rolling around in fields and forests and just gumming up the environment with plastic? It's just, the hypocrisy is staggering. And then also, he's a champion of organic farming, so he gets the guy from Coca-Cola, like the poisonous death sugar water, carbonated diabetes in a plastic bottle throughout the world for every living person to enjoy. Right. It's just staggering hypocrisy and ridiculous on the face of it. It really is. But continuing, the Witty Worldwide PR firm had a campaign which championed the pioneering work IBLF has done to help businesses around the world collaborate with government and local communities on sustainability. So that's your public-private partnership again. In 2014, IBLF became IBLF Global. IBLF Global advises G20 governments on economic policy. IBLF Global works with the US Department of State on initiatives to combat transnational corruption. Yeah, sure. IBLF Global supports the UN's call to align companies with its principles on all that other good stuff. And here's a quote from Neville. Here's a testimonial from Neville Isdell. Witty has a simpler way of looking at things, of wiping away the marketing drivel that people tend to be caught up in. He gets past that to thinking bigger. So I had a little look at this company, Witty Worldwide. I think it might just be one guy even. But if you go to their homepage, we help brands achieve the fame and market value they desire, right? And then check out this image that they've got. I mean, like this one here looks like you got Tom Cruise screaming in pain. At the bottom here, you've just got a lot of people going around, and there's some sort of ambient light coming off their smartphones. A lot of them are holding smartphones up to their heads. It's grayed out. It's there's a picture over here of a horn blasting somebody in the face. HMV's there, I recognize that. There's a hodgepodge of languages, and it's like, I don't know if this is surely it's not a real picture, or if it's an AI generated thing or what, but it's such a gray, creepy kind of dystopian front page image to have up, in my opinion, that you got to question it, right? And then you scroll down a little bit, you got Neil deGrasse Tyson, you got Charles Schwab. They've worked with Charles Schwab. I don't know if he's any relation to Klaus or not. Yeah, it's kind of a strange website. And there he is, championing action for a sustainable future. So this is one of the pieces of work that Witty Worldwide has done. So that was Neville Isdell, who's partnering up with Prince Charles, who cares so much about plastic pollution and organic food. Right. What's his background? Chairman from 2004 to 2009 and chief exec officer from 2004 to 2008 of Coca-Cola. While he was CEO of Coca-Cola in 2007, he earned $21.5 million, which included a base salary of $1.6 million, a cash bonus of $6.6 million, stocks granted of $5.2 million, and options granted of $7.3 million. You gotta be one of the most heartless, cruel, inhuman mofos to be comfortable making that kind of money selling poison sugar water, carbonated diabetes to people all over the world. Poor people, usually, or financially challenged people is probably a better way to put it. But it's cheap. It's cheaper than water in a lot of places. Cheaper than clean water. It's just evil. Let's just call it what it is. He is the interim president of the worldwide, and then we're supposed to believe that this guy, if he does have that view that the world's animals and creatures are very precious and need to be protected, but it's the humans that are the problem, and we're going to find out where that idea came from in a minute. But then it doesn't surprise me that he's moved over to the World Wildlife Fund. I wonder how much cash he's going to be raking in that position. But he's been on a number of corporate boards, including General Motors and British Telecom. He holds, obviously, 5 honorary doctorates. It always tickles me that they just dole out and upgrade people's qualifications just willy-nilly when you're in the club. You know, there was one, I forget whose page it was, but he had a degree and then it was upgraded to a master's. And that's what it said on the Wikipedia page. Such and such a degree was upgraded to a master's in 2014. Just like, yeah, oh yeah, I have a master's. Here, I have a doctorate. Here, I have 5 doctorates. Who cares? Nobody cares at this point. Like, when you're making that kind of money selling disease, you know, they'll dole out some doctorates, give him a medal, give him a few letters after his name. Does he not have some letters after his name? No, he doesn't. That's a surprise, actually. But he's also a recipient of the Clinton Foundation Global Citizen Award. Of course he is. That's the cherry on top, isn't it? But, you know, he's a good guy. He donated $1 million to a rugby club. Yeah, so I'd never heard of him before, but it did give me a little bit of a chuckle to read about him. So the International Business Leaders Forum, what is it? Is it a real thing? Do we have to worry about it? Should we start paying attention to it? Let's have a look. I came to this gov.uk website where you can learn about companies. It's called Companies House, and you type in the title, which I did, and it's the company's number here, and it gives you a little bit of information about it. But it was dissolved in 2016, 20th of April, which was a bit sad, but surprising. I was surprised that it was dissolved. What's the history of it? Well, in 1990, it was Business in the Community International. And then in 1991, it became International Business in the Community. A little bit of a rebranding. I wonder if they were working with Witty Worldwide for that genius bit of rebranding that they did there. In 1993, it became the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. So remember, Joan Veon is writing the book probably around this time, published in 1997. So she is spitting facts and truth when she refers to the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum in her book. But then in 2000, another rebranding, they hired Witty Worldwide again, and it became the Prince of Wales International Business Leaders Forum right up until 2009. And then it was dissolved in 2016. I think from 2009 onwards, it must have become just International Business Leaders Forum, and they dropped the association with King, formerly known as Prince Charles. If you have a look at the people, you can see it has had 72 officers and 69 resignations. Now, I'm not quite sure what this means, but there's a lot of names here who get appointed and then they leave. So this guy was appointed on the 2nd of February 2006. He was a director. This guy was a director. And David Leslie, secretary, resigned. Secretary. Percy Barnovic, director, resigned. This is another director who resigned. There's a lot of directors resigning. Doreen Frangine Bosman, great name. I just highlighted it because it's a great name. She was director, resigned. Then I found Baroness Virginia Hilda Brunette Maxwell Bottomley. Director, resigned. Maxwell, that name stood out to me. Robert Maxwell, Gillian Maxwell. I wonder if there's any relation there. Don't know. But it goes on for many, many pages. Lots of directors, lots of resignations. So I don't know what's up with this. A lot of names would be interesting to look into. Again, not what I'm here to do. But Companies House could be a fun place to dig into businesses, histories, corporations, etc. On the insolvency page, it says it was dissolved 20th April 2016. It was liquidated. It was insolvent and liquidated at this point in time, and these were the guys who oversaw that: Mark Newman and Vincent John Green. And the More tab, you can order a certified document. In the filing history, it tells you about stuff that they did, like PDFs. They declared solvency in 2014 and various things that happened. So I didn't know. I'd never spent much time looking around this kind of thing before, but it's there. It's a resource. Could be good to dive into it and have a look. But while I was looking for International Business Leaders Forum, I did find this website, which is curious. It's IBLF Global, right? So this would suggest that this is what we're looking for, IBLF Global, because it's mentioned here. You know, if we go back, it's mentioned here. It's mentioned IBLF Business Leaders Forum. It did mention somewhere that IBLF became IBLF Global. I think that was on a previous page. So I found this website. What are they doing? They're supporting multinational companies. They are reducing corruption, and reputational risk. And they're supporting governments. What are the activities of IBLF Global? Collective action partnerships, connecting governments, international organizations, business, and civil societies. So that's public-private partnerships. Deliver training and mentoring for young entrepreneurs, strengthening their ability to do business with integrity and become trusted partners in the supply chains of multinational companies and as recipients of foreign direct investment. And then here it says public-private policy dialogues. So there it is, public-private, that's what it's all about. They have executed numerous projects in Asia, mainly, Turkey as well, Russia. And here are their extremely diverse people who work for them, all very happy, throwing up the peace signs, except that guy, he's he's doing something else. He's doing something else. He looks like he knows it as well. But they have a board of trustees, and they have a global management team, and they have an alumni center. But nowhere on this website does it say anything about King, formerly known as Prince Charles. Right? The board of trustees has these two guys, Jan and Phil. Not interested. Don't know who they are. Let's go back here. Let's have a look at the global management team. And we got Brooke Horowitz, Boris Chakchenko, Lady Diandra. That gave me a giggle. You know, researching and learning about Prince Charles, and I found this person called Lady Diandra. She's Indonesian. We got Quinyi Liu, and we got Vu Ti Phuong Lien, doctor. She's Vietnamese. And yeah, it says right there. But no mention at all anywhere of King, formerly known as Prince. So, curious. I don't know what it all means. I don't know if these guys are still going or not. It could just be an old website. Maybe it hasn't been updated or changed. It's 2016. It does kind of have a 2016 kind of vibe to it. It's not full of bells and whistles like the websites tend to be these days. But that's IBLF Global, and it could be the same thing. Might not be, but it sounds like it is. And they're pushing collectivism and public-private partnerships. So, interesting. Okay, we're getting to the end of the preamble ramble now. I know it's been a long one, and I appreciate you sticking with me, and we'll get to the book very shortly. A couple of last things to mention. World Economic Forum's website came up while I was searching as well. And you saw on Wikipedia when I typed in Prince of Wales International Business Leaders Forum, it didn't have an entry for it, but it did have an entry for this World Economic Forum. You know, I wonder if this one was put out there to take the heat. Because there's a lot of mainstream Pied Piper talking heads pointing fingers at this one. And somebody mentioned in the chat, Joe Rogan is another one of those. Thank you for that. I think I'm in agreement. I think he is a bit of a gatekeeper. There's just certain things. He has a lot of wide-ranging guests on. He gives them a chance to speak, but at the same time, he's leaving things out, right? That's still how these operators tend to do what they do. But the World Economic Forum has this little article here about HRH, the Prince of Wales, who's talking about the golden opportunity. What is the golden opportunity? Well, it is the global crisis, known as Big C. And unless we take action and build a greener and more inclusive and sustainable way, then we will have more and more pandemics. And that to me sounded like a threat when I read it. It's like, unless you do what we say, unless you submit to sustainable austerity, you know, the next, like Bill Gates said, the next one, that'll get their attention. So there's going to be more and more pandemics. And, you know, it would be a real dastardly move to actually release something that wiped a whole bunch of people out so that the first round of lockdown believers can jeer and laugh at the non-believers, right? The skeptics, and say, see, you were wrong. This thing is real, and people are dying. And, you know, that would be a real genius move. But I'm not sure they'd do that because it could get out of control too easily, couldn't it? So here you are. You got Schwab mentioned in the speech as cited by Joan Veon. accredited to Speth. Speth? Am I getting his name right? For some reason, I got a blank spot in my mind when I try and remember that guy's name. It was Speth, wasn't it? Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, touting Prince Charles, and there's a bunch of quotes on this website. International Monetary Fund director says, the best memorial we can build for those who lost their lives in the Emperor's new pandemic is that greener, smarter, fairer world. International Trade Union Confederation says, we can never again allow our health, education, and care systems to be underfunded. More taxes. This dude from Microsoft says the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of digital technologies. Well, was it the pandemic, or was it the fact that everyone was browbeaten and coerced and manipulated to stay at home all the time, not forced, but threatened and lied to and deceived to not go to the work, to not go to school, to not go to university, and therefore full of fear, full of paranoia, and that is what drove the adoption of digital technologies. It wasn't any kind of circulating illness. It was the measures taken by the people who program the televisions. That's what it was. Emma has to leave now and says she's going to catch up later. Have a lovely evening. Enjoy your weekend. Thanks for hanging out. And then carrying on with these quotes, we've got a guy from BP saying, we need our imagination. We're seeing every day the arc of the possible. It's being defined every day now, which is a really cryptic quote to include on here from Bernard Looney. But the use of the word arc stood out to me because that's Jordan Peterson's current, what do you call it? Thing, scam, project, effort. I don't know. I don't even know what it is. I haven't paid much attention to it apart from when Christopher Oliver Anthony did a speech there. MasterCard CEO says, the time for cynicism is behind us. Being an armchair critic is really not acceptable. It's time to come to the table and make a difference. So that's pretty good use of metaphors there. Armchair critic, come to the table. Nice. Not too bad, that one. And here's another page that I dug up. Prince of Wales International Business Leaders Forum does appear to be a real thing. This is the UIA, Global Civil Society Database, founded in 1990. But you don't really get much more information than that without a paid subscription. But then you can get the history, the events, the activities, the structure, the finance. There is a little bit of info here about relations with intergovernmental organizations. So you got the WHO, you got the United Nations, you got the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and the Department for International Development. And then relations with NGOs, Civicus, Publish What You Pay Coalition. I don't know any of these. Youth Business International. Nothing else is standing out to me there. Nothing I've heard of. But it says here that which UN sustainable goals is it aligned with? And this is number 8 and number 12. And these are pretty hard to read. I'm struggling a bit. Let's zoom in. Number 8 is decent work and economic growth. And number 12 is responsible consumption and production forever. That's the kind of infinite symbol there. You know? Forever. Permanent austerity, whether you like it or not, and you will not like it. So, where is all this talk of going onto a war footing because of what's happening in the climate? Where does it all come from? Who came up with this idea? Well, whoever came up with it, and we know it's a scam, whoever came up with it, then surely they're operating from behind the scenes. They wouldn't do anything as silly or crazy as writing a book and admitting to coming up with this idea, would they? Oh, wait, maybe they would. So this is the first global revolution. I've talked about it before. It's a paperback book published in the early 1990s. Oh, it's about the time the IBLF was founded, isn't it? Prince Charles was starting his International Business Leaders Forum about this time, wasn't he? Curious. Anyway, you can go and get yourself a copy from Amazon for £789.99. I'm sure you can all afford that. Money well spent. I'm sure you'll agree. If you don't want to get it from Amazon for that price, there are cheaper copies available on bookfinder.com. Here's £391. This one's only £186. That one's $792. Here's one for $731. Here's one for $191. Yeah, you're looking at shelling out a little bit. This has got to be one of the most overpriced, artificially overpriced paperback books in the world. It has to be. And why is it relevant? Well, I happen to have a copy here. Thank you to the awesome, kind, generous, amazing donation of Bai, who sent me a copy of this book. This is the quote. This is the infamous quote that is mentioned very often. And I'm sure it will not be new to most people, but it's worth getting on the record in the context of everything that we've been learning about King, formerly known as Prince, and that we've been looking at in this preamble ramble. And here it is. Here is the infamous quote, page 115. The common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. In their totality and in their interactions, these phenomena do constitute a common threat which demands the solidarity of all peoples. But in designating them as the enemy, we fall into the trap about which we have already warned, namely mistaking symptoms for causes. Because all these things, they're just the symptoms. They're not the cause. What's the cause? All these dangers are caused by human intervention. And it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. And doesn't that sound a lot like our friend James Gustav Speth? It's exactly what he was saying. Changed attitudes and behavior. Indeed. So it all ties in. It all fits in very nicely. First Global Revolution. Very important document. And amazing to see it written in black and white there. This admission that we came up with this idea. This was an idea that was going to be used to unite the world's people, to get everybody focusing on the same problem, and to justify the systems of control that these parasitic psychopaths have been dreaming about for so long, but have never been able to do because they didn't have the internet. Basically, the internet is what makes their dream of totalitarian panopticon control possible. So bear that in mind. Now, we are at the end of the preamble ramble. This might be the longest one I've ever done. So big thank you to all of you who are hanging on in there and chilling with me on tonight's stream. I appreciate it very much. At this point, and I'm going to do it very quickly, but I always just remind people that I'm doing all this because I love to do it, and I think it's important, and I'm very passionate about it, and I hope you are too. And if you are enjoying what I'm doing, please consider supporting by going to allmylinks.com/Hayes Reviews, and you can find where to subscribe, where to follow. You can share, comment, you can like the video, you can, and there's some goodies on there, right? There's my email address, so you can get in touch with me. I'm always happy to hear from people. You can listen to my album, Brave New World Order, which is up on SoundCloud. It's I really like it. You know, I'm a fan of it. It's not the most professionally recorded album, but it's songs from the heart, and you might like it. You might like it. You can donate if you choose to do so. You can join the chat on Telegram, where I hang out, and I'm available most days. You can send me some crypto if you like to do that. And down here at the very bottom, there's a link for my guitar music bundle download. That is 3 or 4, I forget exactly how many hours of the kind of guitar ditties that you hear on the intro and the outro to the live streams. But most importantly, here at the very top is a place where I've set up and I am working on building a community. It's an online community, and the focus is to help people learn the truth about screen addiction. We are all suffering and witnessing profound changes to ourselves and our loved ones because of the use of this technology called screens. Now, television screens, laptop screens, billboards, smartphones, tablets. It's the screen as a piece of technology that is the thing I'm focused on here. And screen addiction is such an overwhelmingly persistent and pervasive problem that I think more people need to talk about it. So that's why I started this community. And you can go to school.com/devised. And if you do, you will be able to join up for free. So I'm just click that link. I'm going to show you what it looks like once I have verified that I'm human, which I think means I'm letting this program scan my browser history, but you know, the things I do. Yeah, if you get to device and you sign up, you'll see a page that looks something like this. Firstly, you'll see an about page with a little video where I explain what's going on, but you can see it's free. We got 89 members. When we get 100 members, I'm going to be putting the price up here because I got to make some money, y'all. But you can get into the classroom. There's a bunch of things here, resources, replays of videos. You can learn about screen addiction. You can get, here's 24 ways to beat screen addiction. A whole list of ideas that you can implement immediately. And then you can join some of our events on the calendar, which happen Wednesdays and Saturdays. Tomorrow night, we'll be having a meeting followed by a reading from the book club. And the book club that we are doing at the minute is focused on this book, Surveillance Valley by Yasha Levine. We finished 3 chapters. It is amazing. If you thought you knew about the internet, but you haven't read this book, then I can tell you, you don't know about the internet and you need to read this book. So that's in there, and you can grab that and watch the replays, and then you can join the Saturday night sessions where we, it's kind of like the same thing as we do now, only other people are on the call and you get to interrupt and offer your insight and your experience and say something to me in real time. So it's more collaborative, it's more fun, it's more engaging. It's not just me with the microphone. We all get to participate and make useful resources that future community members can benefit from, right? So you come in here, you hang out, you offer your insight, you suggest other resources and things that you've learned, and we record it and we stick it in the archive here, and then future people who come along get to benefit from that learning. What a nice system. What a good thing to be part of. So that is school.com/devised, or just go to allmylinks.com/Hayes Reviews, and you can see all the stuff that I just mentioned. And now we are ready to get to the book right after I've had a sip. Can you believe that I did all that preamble ramble without taking a sip? Amazing. So, hope you're all doing well. We got Tarot Galaxy in the chat. I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. Good to have you here. I'm not going to go through and read the comments because we got to get into the book. We got to get this thing finished off, right? So thank you to everyone who is commenting. I appreciate it all very much. Let's do it. Let's go. Oh, hang on. Let me move a few things around first. Then I can more. Oh, wait, hang on. I apologize. I do have something else that I got to mention that I forgot. Very quickly, please bear with me. On Tuesday of this week, I had the immense pleasure to get on a call with Melissa from Alan Watt, Cutting Through the Matrix, and we spent almost, not quite, but almost 3 hours talking about the dystopian novel We by Yevgeny Zamyatin. And that video is now up on the Alan Watt CTTM channel, which you can find by typing in Alan Watt CTTM. Bam, it's right there. This was such a fun conversation. We had a really good time. Yes, it's a crazy dystopian novel about a society that is totally under control by technocratic scientific experts, But we really had a good time on this conversation. And if you are into your dystopian fiction and you don't know about this book, I would say read the book first and then listen to this conversation. Or if you don't have time to read the book, just listen to the conversation. You'll still get a lot out of it anyway. And I was inspired by this conversation and Melissa's analysis of one of the characters in it, that it got my creative juices flowing, and I made this little guitar ditty as well, which is uploaded, and you can enjoy that. You might enjoy it. So give it a punt. You never know. So I just wanted to mention that because it's there now, and I really love these conversations, and I'm very sort of grateful and blessed to be able to have that time with Melissa to discuss books, which is, you know, my favorite thing to do. So I just wanted to mention that. Now we are definitely, for sure, 100%, promise you, ready to get into the book, which is right here, which is Prince Charles. It's a bit dark, isn't it? Sustainable Prince by Joan, Veon. Right, let's have a look how it looks. Might have to do a little bit of lighting adjustment. Hit that. Okay, one sec. Let me adjust my seat. Right. So we've got a few sections to get through. We're going to finish the book fairly quickly. Not much left in the actual main text of the book, but then we've got the annex to go through, and there's some kind of interesting, strange, unusual stuff in there. So let's go with Prince Charles, the Innkeeper. In 1992, the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum was approached by the chief exec of the Intercontinental Hotels and Resorts with a new idea to utilize the environmental experience of the forum in developing an industry-wide environmental initiative. A group of international hotels signed a compact, and the International Hotel Environment Initiative was born. The IHEI consists of a network of hoteliers working through a dedicated support unit with the goal to change business behavior across the entire hotel industry. Industry leaders will improve the environmental performance in their own hotels and act as examples for others. In the 5 years since the initiative was started, IHEI has produced a number of materials such as the Green Hotelier, an environmental action packet for hotels produced in partnership with the International Hotel Association, the United Nations Environmental Programme, UNEP, and various hotel associations such as the American Hotel and Motel Association, the Caribbean Hotel Association, Thailand Hotel Association, and the Hotel Association of Hungary. One of the environmental initiatives is the Linens and Towels Rescue Program, which encourages hotel guests to conserve on daily linen replacement, helping hotels to save water and detergent. So it's just saving money for the people who own the hotels, isn't it? Like, that's what that's about, I think. Making money for the CEOs. That's the return that they're getting on their investment into these institutions and think tanks and foundations and charities. The Holiday Inn Worldwide began its Conserving for Tomorrow program in 1994, stating, "The Holiday Inn Worldwide will proactively encourage and pursue initiatives to improve the global environment." While I do not disagree with the concept of how often a guest wishes to change linens, for whatever reason, it masks the true philosophy of sustainable development, which is control of all resources on planet Earth. So, circling back to SPETH's Institute for World Resources, active in over 50 countries spanning the Earth, you know. Hotels in partnership with the PWBLF include the biggest, most luxurious in the world, such as Accor, Forte, Hilton International, Holiday Inn Worldwide, ITT Sheraton, Intercontinental, Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group, Marriott Lodging Group, Marco Polo Hotels, Radisson SAS Hotels Worldwide, Renaissance Hotels International, and the Taj Group of Hotels. Prince Charles, the Defender of Faith. As a result of my personal study, and in light of the above, I have come to believe that when the United States ratified the United Nations Charter, we and the other countries of the world, who were not part of Britain's Commonwealth, reverted back under British rule through the United Nations organizational structure Therefore, the fulfillment of the Rhodes Trust is complete. Wow. Is complete, you know, not will be, not they're working on it, not just, that's quite a, where's my pencil? It's quite a statement. I've never heard anyone make that claim before, but it's very interesting. I'm gonna have to put a tab here. Bear with me a second. Got my little green tabs. I'm kind of working out my post-it note tabbing book annotation system, but I've had to like butcher, I don't know, maybe something in the region of 30 books as I improve my system, but I'm getting there. Anyway, continuing. If the Rhodes legacy is now complete through the United Nations, then what we are seeing, besides world government and the accompanying economic infrastructure, which is environmentally sustainable, is also a world religion. Charles negates the resurrection of Jesus Christ, reducing him to a good teacher or prophet, along with Mohammed, Confucius, and the other founders of the world's religions. Charles is pagan in his religious beliefs, worshipping the earth, creation, instead of the Creator. The UN's infatuation with paganism can be seen in the Indian tribal chiefs who parade around at many of their conferences. Once the opening tribal dance is performed, these pathetic individuals are then used for photo opportunities. Excuse me. The movement toward a world religion can also be seen in the establishment of a United Religions organization. In June 1995, at the 50th anniversary celebration of the United Nations held in San Francisco, I interviewed the Right Reverend William E. Swing. That's a hell of a name, that. William Swing. Bill Swing. Good old Billy Swing. Bishop of California and trustee of Grace Cathedral, who is one of the founders of the newly established United Religions organizations. Grace Cathedral is where the founders of the UN held a service commemorating their efforts to finalize the UN Charter in 1945. Since Bishop Swing is the key motivator behind what could be called the United Nations of World Religions, I asked him what part Grace Cathedral played at the time. He said, quote, "Well, 50 years ago, there was a service at Grace Cathedral for the United Nations, and in those days, I must say, it doesn't look anything like today's service," referring to the service which Princess Margaret attended. In those days, you would just come to a Christian cathedral and you'd have a Christian service, and that was on behalf of the whole world, and that was the way it was done. 50 years later, the world has changed dramatically, and we've had to broaden our understanding of God. That we have to not only tolerate, not only respect, but we have to move beyond that to enter into the higher pursuit of a relationship with God, with people from all the religions of the world. The world is getting smaller and smaller. There's one financial world. Oh, that's that's quite an ambition, but I mean, he's right. He's dead on. There is only one financial world, with the Bank for International Settlements sitting at the apex of the whole international financial structure. He says there's more or less one newspaper world, there's one entertainment world, but there's one aspect of the world that has not developed, and that is there's not a soul of the world. What? Okay. There's no place where the great striving and the spiritual yearnings of the world can be expressed and the conscience of the world can be voiced in one place. So that's where we're aiming. He went on to say, instead of our own tribal religious identities, that we can now begin to think in terms of broadening the religious dialogue so that we can make it as a community. In other words, if you disagree with the world ecumenical religious movement which is being propagated, you are not participating to peace in the community. The United Religions Organization and the holistic beliefs of Prince Charles are setting the stage for one of his future titles, Defender of Faith. King Charles III. There has been much speculation with regard to when Charles will become king. I surmise that he does not need a throne, for he already has one. the environmental agenda via sustainable development, and public-private partnerships with the world's largest and strongest multinational corporations, many of which have cash flows and assets exceeding that of most countries, provide Charles his throne. It appears that he rules behind the scenes, encouraging, expanding, and pushing the agenda of the United Nations, partnering with the World Bank and other global agencies, all of which are advancing world government, a philosophy with which he is not uncomfortable. After all, there have been many kings, popes, and world leaders who have tried to attain it. When one takes a look at the 48 companies on the Prince's Directorate, 23 of them are part of Businessweek's Global 1000 corporations with a market value of over $1 trillion. Apart from the manufacturing base he has amassed, travel and tourism is the world's largest industry and generator of jobs. It provides direct and indirect employment for 200 million people, 1 in every 9 workers in the world. Its gross domestic product generates more than that of the gross national product of the United States in 1955. It is through public-private partnerships that corporations will replace a nation's rule. When you have a board of appointed people representing government, corporations, the private sector, and non-governmental organizations, money rules, not government or the people. And this is why that one financial system that Reverend Billy Swing was talking about is so crucial to understand and be aware of. What we see in the making is a new form of governance transcending national borders, elected officials, and the will of the people. Little by little, people will be squeezed out, and the new world order will fully emerge. Lastly, the environment is something all the people of the world share. The air, water, fish, and fowl. Whoever controls the environment controls man. That is the objective and goal. The work that Prince Charles is spearheading has been gaining momentum. He is at the heart of what is going on in the world as it relates to power, control, philosophy, and forward thinking at every level of society. Since Prince Charles lives and breathes sustainable development, a better title for him would be the Sustainable Prince. Conclusion. Because of who he is, doors automatically open and people flock to him. His tentacles are very long, reaching into every area of life, business, and government. He transcends politics, national borders, and religion. He is very powerful by way of position, lineage, inheritance, importance, and influence. He is out to remake society and mold it into his image, which is based on Gaia and corporate global governance through public-private partnerships. This will change life for every person on Earth as we will become slaves to the new 21st century feudal landlords, those with the power and money. Sustainable development demands that every crust of bread be measured against what a person consumes in order to protect resources for future generations. Is all of this the new divine right of kings? The person the mainstream media would have us believe Charles is not the real Charles. The real Charles has a global agenda of his own. He should be recognized as a very major player in the end time game. And that is the end of the book. Thank you, everybody, and good night. Just kidding. There's more. So as I said, we got the appendix, but the bit that stood out to me from that little conclusion there is every crust of bread is going to be measured against what a person consumes. Yeah, that's technocracy, isn't it? That's the total measuring, data gathering, and algorithmic / AI control of everything we ever do all the time. Rapidly, unconsciously, ignorantly heading into a world like that, that depicted in We, Yevgeny Zamyatin's novel, or Brave New World, or 1984, or just sort of a combination of all of those. And I think it's really critical to be aware of that. And I'm so impressed with Joan Veon. But there's a few researchers who've been so far ahead of the curve. Patrick Wood, great example. His study on technocracy, his work with Anthony Sutton, way ahead of the curve for so long. Wrench in the Gears is another one. I forget the lady's actual name, but Wrench in the Gears is her blog and website. There's plenty of people out there who, Alan Watt, of course, cuttingthroughthematrix.com. Plenty of people out there who've been explaining this, pointing it out, trying to get the word out. Joan Veon is up there with the best of them, in my humble opinion. So let's have a little closer look. I know it's going to be painful and everyone's going to have nightmares tonight because of all the images of Prince Charles that I've been showing on this live stream, but let's have a look at him. In his baseball regalia, showing his bottom teeth. He does seem to do that a lot. And I don't know what it means. I know if you bare your teeth, that's kind of a sign of aggression. Like animals will do that to each other, but I don't know what this just kind of like showing your bottom set of teeth signifies. But I don't know. KC3 seems to be into doing that. I've grabbed a few snapshots of him baring his bottom teeth before, and there he is again, playing a bit of baseball. Just trying to distract all our friends from across the pond from realizing that they have been brought back under the yoke of the British by way of the Rhodes. Last Will and Testament and the scholarships, of which Speth, James Gustav Speth, was a recipient. Okay, but let's have a look at the appendix, see what else we've got here. So this one is the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. So this is telling us about this elusive and possibly non-existent, but it seems like it did exist, but then it went defunct in 2016, forum for influence and collectivism. So Prince of Wales was the president at time of writing, 1996, and Robert Davies was the chief exec. We didn't look into Robert Davies, did we? But we should do. But we got a lot of names here. So, vice president and deputy chairmans. We got, wow, all these stars after the name. Oh, so these stars with the asterisk. That's denoting someone who's a director. So, 3M. We got Livio de Simone. Grand Metropolitan was Lord Shepherd. BP, British Petroleum, Sir D. Simon. Wheelock and Co. is Peter Wu. Cable and Wireless, Right Honourable Lord Young. That's a lot of directors, isn't it? Asia Brown Bovary is Percy Barnevik. Oh, we read his name on Company's House when we were going through the some of the entries there, right? I remember seeing Barnevik. Neville Isdell, that's the guy we looked at. Coca-Cola, there we are. Johnson Matthey, TRW. I'll just go through some of the companies. SmithKline Beecham, BMW, Arco, Volkswagen. Some company called Top Technology. London First, Young and Rubicam, and there's also Grand Metropolitan. So some of the advisors they had were, are these names or companies? These are companies and names. So there's Burson Marsteller, there's Environmental Resources Management Limited, some guy called Jonathan Porritt, there's members of International Partnership Network, there's IBM Japan, Takeo Shina. This one just says 2 other individuals, so I'm not sure why the list is incomplete. Principal supporters from Switzerland, ABB Asia Brown Bovary Limited. Oh, so that's the one that Percy Barnevik's from. Switzerland at the top of the list there. Interesting. Germany's BMW, UK British Petroleum, Cable and Wireless UK, Coca-Cola US, Grand Metropolitan UK, Itochu Corporation Japan, Johnson Matthey UK, 3M US, SmithKline Beecham UK US, TRW US, and Wheelock and Co. Hong Kong. There's council members. So we've got Abercrombie and Kent Group, Alcan Group from Egypt. Oh my goodness me, this goes on quite a way. There's a lot. Allianz AG Germany, American Express, Arco, Artok, British Gas. I'm going to try and go through these. I'll just pick out the ones that I've heard of before. DHL Worldwide. You can see them on the screen if you want to get the full list. Levi Strauss and Co. Heard of them. McKinsey. What else we got? Robert Bosch and US West International, Tokyo Electric Power, Tokyo Motor Corp. Oh, there's a note here saying that American companies are bold and corporations that are part of Business Week Global 1000 are italicized. So I'll let you grab a screenshot of that if you want to. Then there's also, on the other page, additional partners, members, funders, and associates. So this is going back to that hotel group. And these are just all the... these funders and associates in partnership with the IHEI. What did that stand for? Can anyone remember? Type it in the chat if you can remember. If not, I'm just going to go and have a look. IHEI stands for International Hotel Environment Initiative. Okay, so these are working associates in partnership with that International Hotel Environment Initiative. So we got American Chamber of Commerce, American Hotel and Motel Associate, American Express, Associated Press. There is the City of Charleston. Oh, City of Charleston. That's where he did his speech, isn't it? Gathering the CEOs together in the aftermath of the hurricane. Ford Foundation. There you are. Kellogg Foundation. Friends of the Earth. Hilton International. Soros Foundation. Oh, bloody hell, Soros is here. No Rockefellers, which is a surprise. But, when you got Kellogg, Ford, and Soros, you don't need the Rockefellers, do you, really, at that point? And there's some other down here. It just says Aga Khan Foundation. So that's another foundation. Oh, no, the list continues. Air Canada, DuPont, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. There is the Shell China. There's a lot of St. Petersburg stuff. Check all this out. There's like 12 St. Petersburg ones. You got a foundation, you got a university. That's quite curious. And then, of course, the UN Development Program and Environment Program, the World Bank Group, of course, World Economic Forum, of course, and a bunch of hotels, the International Council of Hotels, and the rest of them are just hotel groups. So, not surprised they scrubbed all this from the the International Business Leaders Forum.com website that we were just looking at. No mention of any of this stuff. Interesting. Okay. So this last appendix, actually, I'm going to have a sit there. Just got a dry mouth. Bear with me a second, please. Put a pen in there so I don't lose my place. The next thing we're going to look at is a chronology of the Prince of Wales and his rise to world leadership. So, in 1948, Charles was born on November the 14th. And in 1958, at 10 years old, he became Prince of Wales and Knight of the Garter at 10 years old. Can you imagine that? It's just, it's impossible to imagine, right? 1965, he's 18 years old, which means he's able to succeed to the throne in his own right. So this is probably where he starts plotting, to murder his mother. Never managed it. 1967, he joins Trinity College and he studies archaeology, anthropology, and history. Then in 68, so he's 20 years old now, he is invested as Knight of the Garter. He officially joins the 24 Knights of the Order of the Garter, who are the Queen's inner confidants. In December of the same year, he chairs the steering committee for Wales, the Countryside in 1970 conference. The Prince gives his first public speech on the environment, showing his concern for the preservation of natural habitats in the wild and protection of the rural landscape, as well as discussing the horrifying effects of pollution in all its forms, citing oil pollution at sea, chemical pollution discharged from factories, and chemical plants and air pollution. This is the crazy blatant hypocrisy, right? He's going up doing speeches about all this pollution, all this like factories, chemical plants, air pollution, and yet he's partnering up with all these groups, these lists that we just read, right? Who, these are all the main polluters in the world. There's corporations, DuPont was in here. All these hotels with all the cleaning products that they have to use, scrubbing all those stains out of the mattresses and the walls or whatever, and the carpets that people leave behind. It's just staggering hypocrisy on a level that's almost so blatant and on a scale that's so huge that it becomes absurd. That Dimbleby quote there is an autobiography of Charles, and that's the page number 312, I think. So in 1969, he's 21 years old. In July, he is invested as Prince of Wales at Caernarvon Castle. He writes in his diary, "For me, by far the most moving and meaningful moment," and that's a good bit of alliteration there, well done, "came when I put my hands between Mummy's and swore to be her liege man of life and limb, and to live and die against all manner of folks. Such magnificent, medieval, appropriate words, even if they were never adhered to in those old days." I'm glad he admitted they were never adhered to. It's just words, isn't it, when it comes down to these people. In 1970, in February, he attends the Council of Europe's European Conservation Conference in Strasbourg. In June, he graduates from Cambridge. In 1971, he joins the Royal Navy. The Prince of Wales Committee, established in 1971, has provided £3.2 million in grants to 3,533 voluntary groups working on projects to improve the environment of Wales. It now funds 350 projects each year. 1972, Royal Navy again. And in 1974, from January to August, he serves aboard the HMS Jupiter. Probably a coincidence, but Jupiter. I bet there's some significance to the name. Is Jupiter the one that ate his children? Or is that Saturn? I always get them mixed up. What's Jupiter, the sign or the planet? What's that? What's it linked to? Anybody knows? Any astrologers in the chat? Let me know. 1975, March to June, he is on HMS Hermes, which was a commando ship with 845 Squadron. So commando ship presumably means none of them wore underwear. But in December of that year, private visit as guest of Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, who started the Bilderbergers. There you go. Bilderberg Group. Dun, dun, dun. Prince Bernhard. 1976 from so 1975. He's not even 30 yet. He's not even 30 years old, and he's hanging out with Prince Bernhard, who is the founder of the Bilderberg Group. 1976, February to December, commands HMS Bronington Minehunter. The Prince's Trust, established to help disadvantaged young people by 1994. The Trust had helped 12,000 individuals with a program of grants and training through 1,400 volunteers. In 1994, its turnover was expected to exceed £10 million. In 1990, the Prince's Trust volunteers work in communities to show the value of team building and to work on a variety of community projects. 12 governmental departments assist to expand the Trust's reach. 1977, he's doing an official visit to Ghana, and supposed to be where he got his spiritual understanding. October, he visits the US and meets President Nixon. Charles examines his own personal beliefs and starts to investigate parapsychology, which is the occult. He writes to the University of Wales to establish a chair of parapsychology. "I am strongly of the opinion that such a chair would be of the greatest importance in advancing men's knowledge of a field that is given scant attention, and yet is of immense significance in terms of the invisible aspects of our existence in this universe." And that's from the Dimbleby book as well. 1977, the Royal Jubilee Trust is established by the Prince to help young people to help others in the community. 1978, he's 30 years old. In November, he has an official visit to NATO in Brussels and SHAPE headquarters. I forget what SHAPE stands for, but we all know about NATO, don't we? The year after that, 1979, in April, visits the Lester B. Pearson College of the Pacific, which is one of the United World Colleges in British Columbia, as president of the United World College. The UWC is founded on the teachings of Kurt Hahn, is based on international education and accepts only the most promising students. It is considered a teenage UN and provides graduates with a 2-year international baccalaureate. Programs are based on new forms of thinking to prepare students for the 21st century. Oh, that is very interesting indeed. The this like teenage UN thing reminds me of people. Isn't it pretty common for schools to kind of have like a mock UN meetings or something along those lines? So yeah, groom them and train them and get them while they're young. 1980, January, Switzerland. Lunch in Zurich to mark 60th anniversary of British-Swiss Chamber of Commerce. Becomes patron of IT, the Intermediate Technology Development Group, that was formed in 1965 by the author of one of his biographies, Jonathan Dimbleby. IT looks to develop means of production for the needs of people in the Third World. The President's Commission on Sustainable Development has an affiliation with IT through Al Gore. From March to April, he visits Ottawa and British Columbia as president of UWC. 1981, he's just on holiday all the time, this dude. He's just on his life's just one constant holiday. ESP says, SHAPE stands for Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe. Thank you. I appreciate that. Nice one. Yeah. He's just on holiday, this guy. He's just flying around. New Zealand next. In March to April 1981, he's in New Zealand, Australia, Venezuela. April of 1981, he receives his honorary fellowship from College of William and Mary. He establishes the Prince of Wales Advisory Group on Disability and the Prince of Wales Community Venture. And in August, he marries Lady Diana, Princess of Wales. Rest in peace. Business in Community formed by the Maverick Group of businessmen. That's in 1981 as well. These men hoped to persuade major companies to donate sums of money, personnel, or resources to be invested in community trusts, projects, and above all, local enterprise agencies. BIC, which is Business in Community, would serve as a catalyst for local action, inspiring partnerships in projects rather than managing them. It would act as an honest broker, or in the vogue word, enabler. I'm just laughing that she was saying enabler was a vogue word back in the 90s, and I hear that at work. Oh, I'm in the enablers team, or this program is an enabler. And I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't get it. It's just a corporate slang, corporate term. It would act as an honest broker between the companies and the communities they served, creating mutual goodwill as well as mutual advantage. The notion of BIC had grown out of the 1980 Anglo-American Conference on Community Involvement, chaired by Tom King, then local government minister, at which British tycoons had heard of American success during the 1970s. In persuading big business to help finance the regeneration of decaying post-industrial cities. The Toxteth riots changed all that. Given special responsibility for the area, then Environment Minister Michael Heseltine took a busload of leading industrialists to see the bleak post-riot landscape for themselves. Only by partnership, Heseltine argued, could a thriving community arise from these ashes with any effective speed. Urban development corporations would be set up around the country. Tax incentives would be offered in the hope that the private sector would quadruple government contributions. Chairmen and CEOs returned to their offices that day intent on getting their companies involved with the existing local government enterprise agencies, which soon became much more numerous. That's from a book, Holden, King Charles III, pages 145 to 6. Business in Community became the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum in 1990. Now, there we go. I hadn't See, that part of it was not very easily traceable, and I'm starting to get very suspicious that there is nothing on Wikipedia about the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. I'm going to even write that here, not on Wiki. Wonder why that is. 1982, October. Prince Charles opens the new United World College in Montezuma, New Mexico. His mentor, Armand Hammer, which is that's somebody I wanted to talk about in the preamble ramble, but there's just too many things to talk about. But Armand Hammer was instrumental in getting the college set up and established in New Mexico. He visits Lester B. Pearson College of the Pacific in British Columbia. So continuing, at a speech at the 150th birthday of the British Medical Association, the Prince speaks about, quote, his own immersion in the unconventional values of Oriental culture, the writings of Jung, and the mystical revelations about the natural world he shared with Lawrence van der Post. The Prince was arguing for holism, quote, closely aligned to the psychology of Jung and to various reinterpretations of the structure of the natural world explored by scientists like James Lovelock, who formulated the Gaia hypothesis. The concept of holism, a term which brought a curl to the lips of scientific materialists, invoked the principles of harmony, balance, and the interconnectedness of natural phenomena, combining them with the search for inner awareness. So that's from the Dimbleby book as well. LJ says he's searching for one's self on all these holidays. Oh, and now he's off to Tanzania, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana as the director of the Commonwealth Development Corporation. That's in 1984. In May, he gives a speech at the 150th anniversary dinner of the Royal Institute of British Architecture. Charles criticizes modern architecture while elevating community architecture. For far too long, it seems to me, some planners and architects have consistently ignored the feelings and wishes of the mass of ordinary people in this country. It's this kind of language, isn't it? Talking about ordinary people. Like the implication is that you consider yourself to be extraordinary, right? Because he's talking like the mass of the mass of ordinary people. You know, like just the arrogance is just shocking. Not shocking, but it's just off the scale. Continuing. What I believe is important about community architecture is that it has shown ordinary people that their views are worth having. That architects and planners do not necessarily have the monopoly of knowing what is best. I express the earnest hope that the next 150 years will see a new harmony between imagination and taste, and in the relationship between the architects and the people of this country. So 1984 continued, he attends the United World College Gala in Monte Carlo. Then, in October, he's off to Italy, United World College in Trieste, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Building in Rome, and he visits the Pope, where the Prince and Princess attend a celebration of faith. Quote, in the spring of 1982, the Pope visited Britain on a pastoral visit where the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury knelt together in prayer in the historic act of reconciliation. In an historic act of reconciliation in a service at Canterbury Cathedral. That's a quote from the Dimbleby book as well. 1985, September, becomes president of Business in Community, which was the originator of the partnership between business, government, and the community. So he literally is the source of public-private partnerships in a very real sense. We had Business in Community that became Prince Charles's Business Leader Forum, which became something else that doesn't have his name on it anymore for some reason. It currently has 450 companies. That's the Business in Community, and 80 of them are the top. So the Business in Community, which Prince Charles was the president of in September 1985, had, when she wrote the book in 1997, 450 companies, and 80 of them are the top 100 corporations in Britain. 80 of which are in the top, I guess she means 80 of which are in the top 100 corporations in Britain. 8 regional offices and 5 campaign teams. It has a turnover of £5 million. In 1989, the Prince launched Business in the Environment to link 2,900 communities and 50 environmental networks to promote good practice through environmental management for medium and small businesses. And then 1986, visits Texas and California, so he's still on holiday. Charles suggested in a speech that developers should build on vacant land in the inner cities rather than push planners to open more land in the green belt. September, speech at Harvard and visit to Chicago. The Youth Business Initiative is merged into the Prince's Youth Business Trust. Currently, they have a volunteer network of 5,500 advisors and a turnover from their business ventures of £1 million. £1 million. It is a model for other initiatives in the US, Canada, and India. The government commits £10 million in matching grants, with an equal amount being raised by the private sector to finance a 3-year expansion scheme. That's from the Dimbleby book. 1987, February. Speaks at the European Year of the Environment, where he says, quote, "Why then are we so slow in this country to respond to what is, I think, a growing public feeling? Why has environmental regulation of one kind or another taken so long to come about here, when you find that in Western Germany, for instance, or the United States, they have had many more regulations and controls for a longer time than we have?" So that's an important quote, because what you see there is an admission that environmentalism is just all about regulations and control. Not for the worst polluters, not for just for you, for the average person, for the ordinary people, the ordinary people whose views are not given adequate consideration by architects. So it says, he went on to say that he had banned aerosol products in his house. That's obviously a typo. It should say his houses, mansions, castles, and Romanian huts, or whatever they are. House. All of that, isn't it? Oh, he's banned aerosol products in his house. Like Prince Charles lives in a house like everyone else, like the rest of us. Anyway, in 1987, in March, he visits NATO headquarters and has an official visit to Swaziland, Malawi, and Kenya as director of the Commonwealth Development Corporation. 1988, in March, he goes to the United States. He attends Remaking the Cities Conference, Pittsburgh. This conference was key for a number of reasons. It was the first time something like this was done in the United States. The topics were urbanism, community architecture, and public-private partnerships. The conference was a joint effort between the American Institute of Architecture and the British Institute of Architecture. So it's really good that Prince Charles is flying around, sticking up for the ordinary people, telling those nasty architects to listen to us and consider our feelings. What a hero. What a champion. In 1988, at a European Environment Conference, Charles says, quote, "There's a growing realization that we are not separate from nature, a subconscious feeling that we need to restore a feeling of harmony with nature and a proper sense of respect and awe for the great mystery of the natural order of the universe. We are beginning to realize that whatever we do to nature, whether it is on the grandest scale or just in our own gardens, is ultimately something that we are doing to our own deepest selves." So profound. 1989. The Prince forms a core group of environmental advisors around him, which includes Richard Sandbrook, Exec Director of the International Institute for Environment and Development, Jonathan Porritt, Director of Friends of the Earth, and Janet Barber, Head of Conservation at the World Wildlife Fund UK, now called World Wildlife Fund for Nature. There were others who provided advice, such as Tim O'Riordan, Professor of Environmental Sciences at the University of East Anglia, and Richard Aylard, who, as the Prince's aide, was a committed environmentalist. Quote, business in the environment, launched by the Prince in 1989, is linked to some 2,900 companies and 50 environmental networks promoting good practice through environmental management publications for medium and small businesses. Opportunity 2000, a campaign to increase the participation of women in the workplace, is supported by more than 250 employers who between them represent 25% of the British workforce. That's from Dimbleby's book. Then in spring, it's a busy year for him, at a speech before the Saving the Ozone Layer World Conference. I didn't know there was a Saving the Ozone Layer World Conference. Whatever happened to the hole in the ozone? Obviously, when he banned the aerosols in his house, it fixed the ozone hole. So, good on him. Captain Planet. Charles says, until we have managed to discover somewhere else in some other galaxy which has a comparable set of atmospheric conditions, it makes absolutely no sense to me at any rate to mess about unnecessarily with the fragile and delicate chemical composition which perpetuate life on this globe as it hurtles mysteriously and harmoniously through space. It certainly makes no sense to destroy the ozone layer. Brilliant. This is great. That was there's a side note, a little note here in parentheses. The US Senate will vote on climate warming in December 1997. I wonder how that vote went. So 1990, getting close to the present day, the first Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum is held in, guess where? Charleston, South Carolina. They have since held over 26 international forum meetings, which have involved 4,000 business leaders in North America, Latin America, Europe, and Asia. In addition, business leaders forums have been established in Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, St. Petersburg, India, and Mexico, to name a few places. 1990, the Prince sponsors an environmental film, The Earth in Balance. At the recommendation of Maurice Strong, the Secretary General of the 1992 Rio Earth Summit, Swiss industrialist Stephen Schmidheine brought together a group of 48 business leaders from 25 countries to present the global business perspective on the environment to the Rio Conference. As a result of the 1992 conference, the World Industry Council for the Environment was established in 1995. 1991. Prince Charles does a timely TV documentary on the environment, which was the centerpiece of a European-wide campaign to raise public awareness about the future of the planet. Charles also visits an Indonesian rainforest, of course, got to get his holiday in, as well as makes an historic visit to Hungary. I presume at this time they weren't, beating people over the head for traveling around in planes. Nobody was pointing out what that was doing to the environment at this point, were they? In April of 1991, Charles hosts a key meeting aboard the royal yacht to bring together just the irony of people meeting on a royal yacht to discuss environmental damage and saving the environment is ridiculous. So hilarious. Okay, let's see if I can keep a straight face and get to the end of this. So he hosts a key meeting aboard the royal yacht to bring together key international figures in an attempt to achieve a degree of harmony between the conflicting attitudes of Europe, the US, and the developing nations with regard to the planned 1992 Rio summit. Among those invited were Al Gore, senior officials from the World Bank, CEOs from Shell and BP, principal non-governmental organizations, European politicians, and the President of Brazil. According to some present, Charles also played a crucial role in preparing North and South for the accommodation in their positions which would be needed for the Rio summit. Charles, in a keynote address to the World Commission on Environment and Development, the Brundtland Commission, commends their findings. Quote, "There is little doubt that your Commission's report in 1987 was the single most important document of the decade on this subject, bringing the phrase sustainable austerity development into all our vocabularies. Now, I happen to be a firm believer in the precautionary principle, recognizing that the systems which keep our Earth habitable are extremely complex and may operate in ways beyond human understanding. Commissioners, your chairman, speaking in Cambridge last year, argued with eloquence that a new triad should be recognized: environment plus development plus democracy. The challenge of Rio is to see how that triad can be put into effect. A first requirement will be a stronger commitment by one and all to create a balance within nations, between nations, and between generations." That's from Population and Development Review 18, number 2, June 1992. So we're still in 1992, aren't we? So in June, the International Partnership Network is formed to discuss the role of partnership work. Its goals are: 1. The advocacy of partnership approaches to sustainable austerity development. 2. The encouragement of regional networks based on specific themes. And 3. The building of capacity. The Institute of Architecture is founded by the Prince to explore, teach, and promote ways of improving the quality of the built environment. Both a summer school and a 2-year study course are available. The Institute conducts summer classes in the United States as well as Europe. International Hotel Environment Initiative is founded when the CEO of Intercontinental Hotels approaches the Prince Wales Business Leaders Forum with a new idea. November. Members of the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum arranged for Minister Kwai Jae-ping to join the Prince of Wales in Hong Kong at meetings to discuss the part business can play in sustainable austerity development. Companies represented included such environment-loving corporations as Coca-Cola, Coopers & Lybrand, Sedgwick China, DLH, Cable & Wireless, Wheelock, Shell China, and IBM China. 1993. Charles visits the USA and Mexico. In Mexico, he expounds his environmental message, which is rapidly becoming the focus of his life. He also chairs the final session of a meeting of his Business Leaders Forum. On his initiative, the business leaders, including over 100 influential Mexican captains of industry, agree to launch a widespread program to bring fresh water supplies to poor rural communities. Charles also brings to Mexico the idea of his business and community venture, well established in Britain, whereby business leaders agree to divert some of their profits to help local people in the areas where their factories are situated. We should expect to see and hear more of him as a major environmental figure on the world stage. In the US, Charles arrives at William and Mary College to take part in the 300th anniversary celebrations. He also visits Vice President and Mrs. Gore, who host a small dinner party for him. He then meets President Clinton. Poland Initiative. 150 entrepreneurs attend the master class to gain insight from international business leaders. St. Petersburg Initiative, through the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum, is established. Prince Charles' Duchy of Cornwall becomes one of the most profitable and largest organic farms in the country. Currently, Duchy Originals organic biscuits made with oats from the Prince's Highgrove estate are exported all over Europe. 1994. In an interview with the BBC, the Prince says, quote, "So much I try to do is behind the scenes. It is not done in the full glare of media attention." Doesn't that remind you of the quote? What is it? Who was it? Was it Rockefeller? Somebody stood up and was like, we're really grateful that our friends in the media haven't been shining a light on our activities because we wouldn't have been able to achieve so much if they were doing it. I think it was a Rockefeller that said that. Just anyone can remember or place that quote, please put it in the chat. Sorry for a second. I just got to straighten this tab. It's gone skew with and it's bugging me. I get a bit one needs to look nice, right? And organized. So he's working from behind the scenes. He doesn't want the spotlight, doesn't want the fame and the attention. It is not done in the full glare of media attention, so it is difficult for people to understand how all the things fit together. Yes, it is when you don't tell them or publicize it or make it known and you're operating in the shadows. It is difficult for people to understand. He also asserts that there is a common theme to all his projects and insists they will turn out to be for the long-term good. The Prince launches his new magazine on architecture called Perspectives. The sole investor in the magazine is the Prince of Wales Institute of Architecture. Charles says of his new endeavour, "We are told constantly that we must create the spirit of the age. What I am hoping for is an age which has spirit." Ooh, very profound. He switched the words around. Ooh, what a deep thinker. I'm inspired. Charles speaks at the Worldwide Fund for Nature Timber seminar in London and stresses his overwhelming sense of despair at the destruction of the world's forests. He stresses that the royal household will use only wood supplied from sustainable sources from 1995. The Prince tours St. Petersburg, where it is hoped his trip will create further Western investment in the city. It is hoped that his visit will be an attempt to reconcile the Anglo-Russian differences from the past. He attends a meeting of his Business Leaders Forum. The Prince visits Hungary, where he meets with entrepreneurs at the Business Leaders Forum and where he inaugurates a new printing machine installed due to British investment. Partners for Growth is established by 40 top business leaders to tackle unemployment. The main objective is to encourage the establishment of direct linkages between large-scale companies and small indigenous enterprises. June. Charles explains his preference for ecumenicalism. So that's the instead of having different religions, all religions worship the same God, and they should all just put their differences aside and just unite and merge together to form one super religion that the world's people can get all up involved in. So that's ecumenicalism. He says, quote, "I've always felt that the Catholic subjects of the sovereign are equally important as the Anglican ones, as the Protestant ones. Likewise, I think that the Islamic subjects or the Hindu subjects or the Zoroastrian subjects of the sovereign are of equal and vital importance." That's from the Dimbleby book. In discussing the relationship of the sovereign to the Church of England, Charles says, with regard to the title of Defender of the Faith, that he would prefer it to be Defender of Faith. Not the faith, but just faith. All faith. Everyone's faith. Everywhere. Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum launches a new project called Inner City Action, which links community leaders in the United States and other Western countries to their counterparts in developing world countries to tackle jointly shared problems of youth unemployment, ethnic minority conflict, shortages of housing, and environmental degradation. 1995. ISEC, the world's largest student-managed organization, and the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum embark on a joint initiative to answer questions of business. In January, Charles tours Hong Kong and attends the British Chamber of Commerce there. Charles also spends 5 days in Hollywood, meeting with his Business Leaders Forum on the need for partnership in troubled city communities. Charles toured gang-infested areas of Los Angeles. Yeah, I'm sure he did. He was probably sitting in a bulletproof car at the time. March. National Business Initiative, BNI, for Growth, Development and Democracy, set up in South Africa. The goal is to support the creation of public-private partnerships. In 1995, the BNI formed a strategic alliance with the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. May. The Prince tours Northern Africa, which includes Cairo, the Valley of the Kings, the Ibn Tulun Mosque, and the Greek Orthodox Monastery of St. Catherine in the Sinai Desert. In Casablanca, the Prince addresses Kingdoms in Partnership, the largest British trade fair ever staged on North African soil. The Prince addresses a conference on Britain in the world at the Royal Institute of International Affairs. Well, there it is. Let me underline that. we've seen quite a few royal institutes, and but that's the first time we've seen the Royal Institute for International Affairs mentioned. And so that's a conference on Britain in the world. Other speakers include John Major and Henry Kissinger. Yeah, of course Kissinger would be there, wouldn't he? Good old Heinz Kissinger. The Walt Disney Company is to distribute the children's video The Legend of Lochnagar, which is based on a story Charles wrote in 1970 to amuse his brothers in the US and Canada. All profits will be passed on to the Prince's Trust. The Prince of Wales Company, Duchy Originals, the commercial arm of the Duchy of Cornwall set up in 1990, launches an upmarket range of non-alcoholic beverages. The drinks will be produced and marketed in conjunction with soft drink giants Coca-Cola and British firm Cadbury Schweppes. June, the Prince visits Canada for Hamilton's 150th anniversary celebrations. July, community action, India business and community partnership brings senior figures together from major Indian investors. This is 1996. Also in July, the World Bank hosts its first major meeting on corporate citizenship in September 1996. In July, the Prince meets the President of the World Bank. Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum members and partners take a leading role with 450 participants from industrialized and developing countries. Sir David Simon of British Petroleum and Percy Barnevik of ABB speak. The World Industry Council for the Environment and the Charter for Sustainable Austerity Development merges to set up the World Business Council for Sustainable Austerity Development, which is a coalition of more than 120 business leaders drawn from over 34 countries and 20 major industrial sectors. In 1995, it produced a report with the cooperation with the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum that led to the establishment of a leadership development program. In partnership with the UN Environmental Program and Green Cross International, the WBCSD is working on a program to transfer expertise on environmental emergency response to Central and Eastern Europe. It should be noted that Mikhail Gorbachev is president and founder of Green Cross International. Oh, how about that? I thought he was a nasty Russian, though. September. The Prince visits North Carolina, where the first American summer school sponsored by the Prince of Wales Institute of Architecture was being held. In October, the Prince of Wales Business Forum leader, there's a typo, Business Leaders Forum, and the Hungarian Business Leaders Forum sponsor Skills for Tomorrow, Investing in People in Budapest. November, Prince of Wales Business Leader Forum, another typo. It's not Business Forum Leader, is it? Business Leaders Forum trains 150 entrepreneurs. December, Windsor Castle Roundtable on Social and Ethical Accounting and Auditing is hosted by the New Economics Foundation, the Institute of Social and Ethical Accountability and Sustainability Limited. And there's a little footnote here saying, the above is not a total representation of the meetings, speeches, and appointments of Prince Charles, but is provided as a small sampling of some of his activities and his deep involvement in the global, governmental, and environmental affairs of this world. In many cases, the month in which an activity occurred was not provided and therefore is left blank. I wonder if anybody could fill in that timeline from 1996 up to the present day. And these are just all the sources. A lot of them are from the Royalty magazine and the Majesty magazine. Not conspiracy publications. Let me have a sip, then we'll get on to the final appendix, which is Prince Charles versus Jesus Christ. I'm kind of being a bit silly when I say that, but it is a comparison between the two. As we know, and Joan Veon is writing from a biblical worldview. She made that very clear in the introduction. Still, it's kind of an unusual thing to stick at the end of your book. So I'm quite interested to see what happens when you put them side by side. So this is Appendix C, a comparison. Charles, Prince of Wales, to Jesus Christ, Prince of Peace. I have no idea why she's comparing them, but let's see. Let's roll with it. Charles, Prince of Wales. So Charles, born at Buckingham Palace with great fanfare and celebration, Jesus, virgin born in a stable, angels heralded the birth of the Saviour of the world. Charles, parents are rulers of this world as Queen and Prince of Great Britain and the Commonwealth. Jesus, earthly parents, poor people of lineage to King David who had no earthly aristocratic standing. Charles, the heritage of the British royal family can be traced to the 8th century. The lineage of Charles can be traced to the titular kings of Jerusalem back to Babylon. Charles is Jewish by his father's father. Jesus was born before the foundations of this world and at the creation. He is the great I Am, born in the city of David. The Messiah is Jewish. Charles, the Queen rides in a gold carriage and Charles in limousines, Rolls Royces and sports cars. Jesus walked as he had no conveyance. Charles went to private schools and graduated from Oxford University. Jesus apparently had no formal education. In 1958, when Charles was almost 10 years of age, the Queen bestowed upon him the title of Prince of Wales to be invested at age 21. When Jesus was 12 years of age, he spent 3 days in the synagogue asking questions of the doctors and learned rabbis. Charles invested at Carnarvon Castle and given all of the symbols of kingship, robe, crown, sword, scepter, presented at the north, southeast and west sides of the castle. Jesus, the only crown and robe he received was the crown of thorns in mockery. Soldiers cast dice for the robe. Charles was trained as a naval officer, earned wings as he learned to fly a helicopter and a number of sophisticated jet fighters. Charles is a military leader. Jesus is a teacher who lived in territory occupied by Rome. He came to set men at variance with one another, father with son, mother and daughter. Charles, in a quest for inner meaning, he turned to nature, Gaia, the worship of earth. He believes in the virtues of each religion but discounts Jesus Christ. Jesus, it is through the blood of him that man has forgiveness of sins and is saved eternally. We worship the Creator, not the creation. Charles married a virgin to produce heirs while he was having an affair with a married woman. It was this adulterous relationship which broke up his marriage. Jesus, the Son of God, knew no woman, and he honored them, as it was Mary Magdalene, to whom he showed himself after he rose from the grave. Charles, a Renaissance man, action, sport, music, theatre, drama, art. Jesus, the one who created the seasons, music, art, said, I am the way, the truth, the life. Charles has set up a number of trusts to help the poor. All profits go to his trust. Jesus ministered to the poor, preaching, healing, teaching. The rich have no need of a doctor. Charles, a businessman, spearheads the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum, working with the world's leading multinational corporations on environmental issues. Jesus, the businessman, leading learned officials and soldiers. The businessman leading learned officials and soldiers came to Jesus, seeking his counsel, healing, and words of life. Charles is active on the global level, bringing together key players through the global government body, the UN. He has guided the UN radical environment agenda, which will change how the world lives, an agenda which will lead to bondage. The whole mission of Jesus Christ was to redeem man's fallen state through his sacrifice on the cross and provide forgiveness of sin and eternal life. Jesus provides hope to the downtrodden and freedom for all who believe in him. Charles meets regularly with world leaders when he visits their countries. The only world leader Jesus met was Pontius Pilate. Charles, in his Business Leaders Forum, concentrates on the developing countries of the East. The gospel of Jesus Christ began in the Middle East. Charles has been a critic of modern architecture, preferring classical architecture. His Institute of Architecture concentrates on the holism of buildings and their interaction with their surroundings and nature. Although Jesus was a carpenter, the Greek word is used in contempt, as Jesus is the great architect, designer, and fabricator of all material creations and of all moral creations. Wherever the prince goes, he has many, many followers and admirers. He is watched and tracked. Jesus is the name above all names. At his second coming, all men will bow their knees to him. The symbol for the British royal family is the dragon, and Jesus came as the Lamb of God. I think that is it. Well, the last thing we got is just the notes, the footnotes with the references and the books, which Joan used to write this one. And we've dipped in and out of here before already. But some of the key things that I think people might want to check out is William Tung, International Organization of the United Nations System. Carol Quigley, Anglo-American Establishment. And this Robert Rothberg book on Cecil Rhodes. I haven't read it, I haven't got it. But I think it'd be worth getting. It's not too pricey. Let's see. You got an Anthony Holden book on King Charles III from 1988. Curious that he called it King Charles III, isn't it? Back then. Because he was the prince back then. Anthony Holden, same guy, also did Charles, Prince of Wales in 1979. And then, of course, there's Gerald Paget's book, The Lineage and Ancestry of Prince Charles. And I think that's, there's a Dimbleby book that was quoted extensively in that last section. What else we got? That's largely it. Oh yeah, there's a book here about Armand Hammer, 1989, The Untold Story of Armand Hammer. That's by Steven Weinberg. Let's see. That's pretty much it. Jane Nelson's got an article, telephone interview, ASEC, Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. That is, boom, that's the end of the book. We did it. We finished Prince Charles, The Sustainable Prince by Joan Veon. What does everyone think of that? Just adjust my seat, have a sip, check a few comments, and then we'll close it out. So he's been a busy little boy, hasn't he, old Chucky? Old sausage fingers. Traveling around. Lots of holidays. A lot of holidays. I hope he's offsetting his... I hope he's buying lots of carbon credits to offset all the jet fuel that he's burning through. Flying around the world, hobnobbing with the most wealthy, rich, powerful, and influential people. It sounds like, reading between the lines, it sounds like he's just coordinating like he's the one flying around going, look, we got the power, the money, the prestige, the influence. If we don't work together, like if we cooperate, we can keep it. Rather than risk, what am I trying to say? Rather than compete against each other, if we just pool our resources, we got an opportunity here to roll out a system that will guarantee that we and our friends can continue to be this uber wealthy, super influential, powerful, parasitic minority who are, just sucking the blood of everybody else. But you got to coordinate everybody. You got to get them all on board. There's no point fighting each other. There's no point competing with each other. Let's all team up. Let's roll out the same corporate doctrine in each of our areas of influence. Let's bring in the standardized way of doing things internationally. Everyone below us, they can all worry about the nations and the borders and the passport controls and the taxation and the regulations and the rules. We above, outside, and beyond all that, we can just coordinate, meet up, and we keep flying around, attending our conferences, patting each other on the back, doing deals, shaking hands, and living the good life. That's what it sounds like he's doing to me. He's going to visit the Royal Institute for International Affairs. He's hanging out with Kissinger. And that Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum. That is so curious. I really want to know more about that. I really do. Because I found a few dead ends. I found a few suggestive things online, but nothing concrete, nothing detailed. And that website that I did found that I showed you with the diverse cast of smiling looking people, to me that smells a bit. I don't know if that's just a cover up or like a fake website. I don't know. There's something fishy and weird going on there. And I'd never heard anyone mention the Prince of Wales Business Leaders Forum, I don't think, until this book. So Joan Veon is bringing new avenues of learning and research to us. And for that, I think we should all be very grateful. And Joan Veon is no longer with us, but I hope she rests in peace. And wherever she is in the great beyond, I hope she's doing well and is just happy and comfortable and relaxed, because she did put in some legwork to pull all this stuff together. And if that tiny little book is so good, imagine what she's got for us between the covers of this one. All about, you know what I mean? Like, oh boy. But I'm gonna have to wait, I think, till I have more time to commit to reading a book of that size. So did you all enjoy that? I hope you did. We got some good comments. We got some comments about Alan Watt saying, Anna says, Alan was my eye opener. Tarot Galaxy says, yes, Alan Watt woke me up. He does have a habit of doing, or he did have a habit of doing that, didn't he? He still does. He's still doing it, with all the, thousands of hours of content that exist, that are out there for free. It's incredible. Melissa says, Synchronous was just looking for that in the shelf. Great. Thank you. Tarot Galaxy says, I read somewhere recently that the different competing factions joined together first under Bilderberg 1952. All right. I could buy that. I could believe that. At some point they got to realize, look, we could fight each other, or we could just lock this place down. Let's just lock it down, and be happy with what we got. And that's what we've seen. The Big C event proved that the script exists and all countries are beholden to it. It was rolled out everywhere simultaneously. You cannot deny that. And it's not because there was some threat that was going to make us all sick and kill us all. I did believe that for about 4 days, though, I'll admit. I was really terrified. I was like having a proper existential crisis for about 4 days. But then the reading, the research, the learning kicked in. And all the questions I was asking and all the brave voices I was listening to who were speaking up and broadcasting throughout that time snapped me out of it. Snapped me out of the fear spell, and I regained some composure. I got some perspective, and I started to think logically and critically, and from a place of curiosity rather than a place of fear and dread. And that changed everything for me. So, little tangent there, but this is what it sounds like to me when he's jet setting around. Somebody needs to come and do a King Charles, the Sustainable King, and fill in the timeline and capture what he's been up to since this book was published. But I thought that was fantastic. So I hope you all enjoyed that. Matteo, thank you. Oh, Matteo says he's coming to my hometown in a couple of months. Oh, dude. Are you going to go and you could cream pie him? Like you remember when Bill Gates got cream pied? Dude, if you cream pie him, that would be so good. Tarot Galaxy says, do all roads lead to Rome? Don't know. I live on a cul-de-sac, so the place I live does not lead to Rome. But if you went out of the place I live, you might end up in Rome eventually. There's a guy, Peter Estrada, he used to join the Lusitania live streams when we were reading Lusitania, and he always used to say, more Rome than Rome. I really like that saying. I hadn't heard it before until he said it. So it's this, it's a good way it's a good way to put it. More Rome than Rome. The people we're dealing with, they are more Rome than Rome. Right then, what have I got to tell you as we wrap up to get out of here? Thank you to Abstract Conflict, ESP, and Celine Lion on Odyssey. And over on Rumble, it's been quiet over there tonight, but we did have, or maybe still do, Turbs and Hasdak. Hopefully you're still out there. If not, thank you for popping in. Got loads of people on YouTube. I think I've given a shout out to most of you so far. I don't think I missed anyone throughout the course of the broadcast. Yeah, I can't see any names I haven't already mentioned. David Dolby, actually. I don't think I mentioned you. David says the legal definition of human is sea monster. Would you have to look in like a Black's Law dictionary or an old dictionary of some kind? I'd like to know which reference holds that definition. I can believe it because of all this maritime law that is rolled out and the straw man and all that kind of stuff. I'm not an expert on it, as you could probably tell by that very inexpert summary. Cool. Right, so what have I got to tell you? I got to tell you that next week I will not be doing a live stream because I'm going to be on holiday. So next Friday is a night off. Then I do have a next book lined up. Now, I tend to put out a vote and let people in the Telegram chat vote on what book we're going to do next. And I am going to do that. But before I do that, I'm going to read from this book here, which I found in Oxfam a couple of weeks ago. And it is a book called Endgame, The Hidden Agenda 21 by Vernon Coleman. And somebody on here, some of you might know Vernon Coleman. He was making videos, an old man in a chair. And he was doing these old man in a chair videos through the Big C event. And he was putting out a crazy amount of common sense, logical analysis. And Vernon Coleman's been at it for a long time. He's a prolific author. He used to be a doctor. I don't know if he's still putting out books, but he was mainstream at one time. He was on television. And then at some point, he went against the narrative and started telling people things that you shouldn't tell people if you want a career. And he kept going because I think he cared more about helping people and telling them the truth. And I've read a book of his already about addiction. I got it here under a pile of other things. But I read this one, Addicts and Addictions. If you're interested in addiction, I really recommend this. It's short, easy read, bish, bash, bosh. And the third section, I think it's the third section, is great. This section 3, What Makes an Addict, that whole section is fantastic. And the first two sections are really all about different substances that people get addicted to and how to spot it and why that happens and that sort of thing. But that book I can highly recommend for if you want to learn about addicts and addiction, which is a topic of interest to me. This one I picked up and I thought I would love to read this on the channel. So I dropped him an email and I said, hello, can I read your book on the channel? He said, well, these books are my main source of income, so it's a no, I'm afraid, because I got to sell these books. That's how I'm paying bills. And I was like, yeah, fair enough. That's cool. He's got a lot of books for sale and he's been banned from making his own social media accounts, video accounts on YouTube, etc. A lot of censorship has befallen this gentleman. And then he got back to me and he said, well, actually, I'd be happy if you read 25% of the book and told people where they can get it and about my websites, etc. And I was like, yes, I'll do that. So that's what we're going to be doing next. This is a really interesting book. The layout, the way it's written, it's very curious and it's quite unique. So I'm going to read, a few bits of it. Maybe I'll just do one live stream reading sections out. So that's going to be coming next because I've got his permission to do that. And then after that, keep an eye on the Telegram chat for a survey. It'll probably have 3 books on it. I've got 2 of the books decided what I'm going to put up on there. I haven't quite decided the third one yet. But if you want to say it on what we read next on the channel, then you got to hang out in Telegram because that's where the vote is going to be. And then we'll once we vote on the books, I'll put 3 up there, and they'll be the next 3 that we work our way through. That's what we did with Milner Fabian, Fabian Freeway, and the other one. I forget what it was. Next Million Years. So we did those in order of popularity of the votes. So that's coming up. Keep an eye out for that. The only other thing I got to say is thank you for hanging out. And you can go to allmylinks.com/Hayes Reviews to find all my links. And there's all that stuff there. I've talked to you about it once already. I'm not going to describe it all again. All I'm going to say now is thank you again. No live stream next Friday. I'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll do a bit of Endgame, the Hidden Agenda, Agenda 21, which follows on very nicely from Prince Charles and his sustainable austerity. So, yeah, awesome. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope you enjoy spring. Get some outdoor time. I think Lisa said earlier in the chat she's been out walking the dog. You know, get out there, enjoy it, make the most of it. The sunlight, the fresh air, the breeze, even if it's raining, whatever, just outdoors in nature, spending some time in creation, looking at the majesty, the magnificence, the amazing design of it all. It's really great. And I think most people agree on that, regardless of your view on whether it was designed or whether it all evolved, whether, you know, whatever. You can't deny that the incredible intricacy of the way living creatures and ecosystems are all operating and occurring at the same time. It's just a miracle to behold. So hopefully you can soak up some of that over the weekend. I'm going to be on holiday next week, going to spend a week traveling a little bit, not too far, not great distances, but a little bit out and about. Might do some book shopping, and I'll see you again in about 2 weeks here. But if you want to hang out sooner, please consider joining the Devised community, because I'll be doing a meeting tomorrow night where we're reading through Surveillance Valley, another chapter, and then next Saturday we'll be doing the same thing, reading through another chapter of Surveillance Valley. That book is a humdinger, really worth checking out. Lots of amazing research and an incredible narrative and story about how the internet got started, who was involved, for what purposes. It will change forever the way you think about the internet. I promise you that. So that's all I got to say. Take care of yourselves and each other. Have a lovely time. Thank you again for hanging out. This is really my favorite thing to do. So cheers. Till next time, God bless. Till next time, God bless.